Yo.
We've been bantering.
Hello.
We've been bantering for about like 30 minutes now. So
Easily.
I think
We're kind of bantered out. I'm a little
Yeah,
worried.
and all of our material's gone now. Like, well,
I
hopefully
probably should have been
David
recording the entire time, but
Oh, that would have been incriminating.
also true. So yeah, none of that.
Yes, this is very true. So let's see here. We've got a couple different topics. We've got a variety of TOs.
Mhm.
Oh, David says, "Give me a min." So he must. That conversation must be a good one. Must be a very good one. So, got a couple of different folks here. Let's see here. Who's new? We've got y'all know John, myself, John, and Andrew. If they're familiar with us, if they've listened to one of these. And then we have the ever omnipresent Ed of the Trace Complete series.
I did.
Yes,
I'm omnipresent now. That's terrifying.
that's Joe has led the legendary. I'm going the ever omnipresent.
All right, I'll
I
take it.
figure it's a step up.
I'll
And
take
the
it.
ever omnipresent Tempest. Gentlemen, both TOs. I think so. Ed, I know you've done online events as well as the media back end. Tempest, you've done offline and online events, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Correct.
All
I
right.
used to help out the Boston folks too. So
There you go. So we've got a couple different things here we're going to kind of touch on. I think we had 4 primary topics that we were going to kind of all go on about, give opinions, shared ideas, if you will. So we'll start with probably the first one. That's probably the one that folks are most familiar with in regards to what's been going on FGC Twitter and all the channels. One Alex Valle, aka Cali Power, of out in the West Coast, made a comment reminiscing of the quality of players during the arcade era. I think it's important to note quality of players, not quality of people. So that's a key thing that I want to make a distinct difference between. So with that said, Ed, stop it! You're making me laugh.
don't be funny.
I don't laugh at my own jokes. I laugh at other people laughing at them.
Yeah, I mean that makes it totally okay.
Then I'm happy I'm bringing them joy. But basically the talk of killers in the modern era. Are there more killers today than there were during the arcade era? We're going to probably start off with that. And before we jump into that, we've also got a couple different topics. Top 5 game players of all time. Maybe we can, extrapolate from there and start maybe going to some individual games, just for argument's sake. The resurgence of Guilty Gear with the quality of netcode and the implications that might have for Bamco should Season 4's promise improved netcode not deliver, as well as how important are our fighting game companies and developers listening more to that now? Should they listen to it more? And exactly how far should they go? Should they go as far as to balance the game like NetherRealm Studios kind of does at times, where like, hey, this is really hard to deal with online. I'm going to fix that for you right now. It's like, well, now I can't use this offline.
Dude,
and then finally,
speaking of that, we actually used to make jokes about that. Was NRS would update their games so often that you would be in the middle of your juggle and just drop it because they updated it.
New patch.
Yep, new patch. It's like,
get out of the
pool.
When would it be responsible to host an offline major again? And then we've kind of got some open room from there. So you want to hop right into that killers topic, or do you, should we hold that? Should we hold on to that?
I think we should. I think we should make that the first topic for sure.
All right, John, what do you think? Are there more killers today than during the arcade era?
I think there are more hidden killers. But I think the landscape has also changed, because you got to think that back when we were doing majors, a major was considered, 30, 40 people was a major.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, granted, the level of competition was infinitely higher than what we see now, because you didn't have a lot of just like bracket fillers, just just free money entering. Like pretty much everybody was a killer back in the arcade days. But then, like I said, the sample size was so much smaller than just because. I mean, it was video games, nerds, and all that other stuff. So the rare chance that like even in fighting games there were, I guess, regular people was kind of few and far between because it was still video games, still fighting games, still people like that didn't really get the competitive side of it. So it's kind of like a yes and no. But I think that now we do have more, like everything's more spread out now. So like we do have a lot of killers, but then you have a lot of people who think they're killers that aren't worth anything. They just, hop online, they get a couple wins or like clout chase or I remember somebody said, "Oh, I have stream snipers on Tekken." It's like stream. Wait, what? Stream snipers? Like, can't stream snipe in a fighting game. Like, I mean, you can hop on and like beat somebody up that don't really know how to play the game, but I mean, then you're just clout chasing. So I mean, we have that, but I mean, I don't know. That's
that
just
was
my
a big
opinion.
that was a big thing that he seemed to kind of be talking about was the on. It wasn't so much the old school versus new school. It was more so the players bred in an arcade environment versus players bred in an online environment. And Tempest, you've gotten to see both sides of this as well.
Yep.
Do you think there's some validity there to what Vaye's saying? And before you answer that, I'm glad you mentioned, John, that you talked about the amount of entrants there, and it was interesting that there were people who were echoing the sentiments that were shared in that tweet, and I couldn't help but feel that they were disingenuous about the size of tournaments because I couldn't help but see that there was like, oh yeah, 128 people, and it's like,
When
sweetie,
It's like really, really.
So someone was like, and then someone mentioned, Daigo winning like a 10,000 person Japanese tournament. They're like, oh, blah blah blah. So like, number one, that was like that was the equivalent of like a Nintendo Power Tournament in like
Exactly.
1992. Okay,
Like when you saw that movie, what was it, Wizard? The Wizard?
Yeah, the
Or whatever.
Wizard.
Yeah.
It was that.
That's what it was. It was like when you saw tournaments that had that amount of people, that was heavily sponsored. Like, that was everybody jumping out with like or in this instance Capcom shirts and like, see, it's like, see guys, this is
big marketing ventures.
Yeah.
They're big marketing ventures.
like that wasn't a
Get
turn.
shirt,
Yeah,
lose, leave.
exactly.
Super Battle Opera, the super events of those days, like that, they were big. That was what they were.
But were they good?
In Japan they were in Japan they were a little wild because they were single elimination. So
there was a lot of
really.
It was exciting because, like I said, it's single limb, and you have a lot of high level players. But then you also had guys who, like I said, like even now we have hidden killers that just come out and will randomly beat somebody, and it's like, yo, like, and I mean that was back in the days with. I'm sure you've heard the term "save it for nationals," and you'd have a lot of people who
save that shit for nationals.
Yeah, it's like, they come up with some tech, and they tell like their one or two friends like, "Yo, I got this set up, and it's wild." And then nobody's ever seen it. Then all of a sudden, it'll work for the one or two times that they kind of debut it. But then, I mean, it was also back in the days when we didn't have the internet or anything. So if you saw it, there was no way to study it. Like you had to do it live. So
yeah,
That makes sense.
And it was interesting to me that there were folks that were misrepresenting the size of the events, and we've seen instances in the past in real life, misrepresentations of the size of events, and it was just interesting that insecurity was there. You typically, part of me is wondering, like, are y'all trying to prove a legitimacy when you know that that's something that someone it's one of those kind of it's like the Jordan versus LeBron arguments where,
right.
I know they're gonna bring up LeBron losing, I gotta bring up Jordan losing in the first round. Like kind of those prepared arguments where it's like it's really a push. You're really not going anywhere with it, but you're gonna pretend that you've got something. But what do you think in regards to events like this? Seems to be are there killers now? There's certainly killers now. Would anyone disagree that there are not?
Yeah,
No.
there are killers now, and honestly, like I feel like there's more surprise killers now than there ever has been. Because there are times where it's like you'll hear, oh man, like like this player lost. Just take for instance, like Tokido, right? When he came over in Street Fighter 4 and he randomly lost to JR Rodriguez. I usually use this example a whole lot. And like people are like, yeah, but it's JR Rodriguez. I'm like, yeah, but like nobody really would have expected him to beat Tokido, especially in the Akuma mirror. Like how like it's not, but like now you'll just randomly hear from like Smokey Blunt's 580 and all of a sudden it's like, who is this guy? And they're like, oh, like dude is like a really sick like online person. He just can't make it out to tournaments all the time, and like now he's here and he's doing some damage. And that's happening now more so than ever. At least I feel like I see it more, whereas before it's like you knew who the killers were and you knew who the potential killers were, like the people that could actually kind of put their foot in somebody's behind but they couldn't win it. And it's just like, but now we're getting more and more random people. More recently, you got people like Lost Souls and Ninja Killer who just kind of like come from the online scene and then start doing damage, and it's not a one-time thing. Like they start consistently placing high and beating people.
So
can I say something to that? Can I say something to that, Josh?
Yeah, go for it.
I was actually getting ready to ask you, say and lead into if you want me to segue. Can I segue still? Can I? I'm proud of the segue I had. Can I have it? Can I have it?
Go ahead. Of course.
Yes, I wanted. He brought. Tempest brought up a great point there about the unknown killers, and that's something that I think we from the arcade era to the online era, everyone knows that there are the unknown killers that they're doing great in events and they could probably make big runs. And it's almost like I figured this would probably really appeal to you and John with the martial arts backgrounds, and should anyone else watching or joining us on the call of course have one as well, where that martial arts background, you have stories of people who train with the pro fighters like the world champions, where there are stories like, oh yeah, the dude that he trains with just beats the dog shit out of him on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. Like, there was a guy who's in the Midwest. I can't remember his name, but he's done a few of the grappling tournaments, and the dude is the definition of country strong. And he would regularly whoop up on the Militich fighters. Just like he would come in like after hunting for 2 weeks and then just beat the shit out of them.
Oh, you talking about like Matt Hamill and guys like that?
Yeah, like I can't remember the guy's name. If I saw it, I'm gonna be like, they had a story about how he literally like skull crushed the dude. Like didn't crush the skull, but like just grabbed his head, and started squeezing the guy. Just like tapped out. But with that background, y'all understand. Like there are people who just it's not the tournament scene or whatever doesn't appeal to him. Like Jimmy is probably the closest thing to that, but he actually goes to the events where he's just like, I'm not interested in anything else. Like those are still present. Are there more today than there were back in the arcade era? Like, what's your opinion here on the?
There are so many more.
I genuinely think.
Okay, sorry. Thank you for the segue to that. You're absolutely right, and I think a lot of it has to do with our limited aperture. What we've seen from the arcade era and also what we've seen in the tournaments that we've gone to. Like, who is it that we know? Like, for instance, you know who did that when they came out? GamerB. GamerB came out for the first time and went top 8 at EVO, right? We didn't know who that dude was, but he was playing with that Ken player back in the day. That black dude that always played Ken in the cowboy outfit.
Banana Ken.
Not Banana Ken. The other Banana Ken was a black. He was Latino.
Oh, he's
hold on. I thought Banana Ken was Filipino. Hold on.
Yeah.
Is he Filipino or is he Latino?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think he was Latino. So the the guy that came out and told us about it was like, listen, when Gamer B comes out here, he's gonna mess up a lot of people because he was playing Gamer B online. I think that the short answer to the question is yes, we have more killers now. Reason being because we have more platforms to play on. Before it was arcade and home. Now we have arcade, home, and internet. And I think with that many more people that are playing, the arena is bigger, right? Yeah, they still might be homebound. Like look at Big Majin. Big Majin has been around forever, but Big Majin is known in the South. So now that people are seeing him online and seeing his rivalry with Poke Chop, like people are just now seeing like me, even me personally, right? I've seen Little Majin more than I've seen Big Majin, and I didn't know that him and Poke Chop were playing versus each other forever. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And not only have they been playing forever, they're not just Tekken players. They played CVS2, they played Soul Calibur, they played all the games really well. So I think that yes, there are. I remember getting into this same argument with David, Ultra David, a couple years back, and I can't argue truth, but he said, listen, back then, the killers that we had may or may not do well against these young bucks because a lot of the young bucks, or let me just call them the young OGs, have studied all the old OGs. And they are now remaining consistent because the reality of the situation is all the OGs that we know are still winning. They're still on top. If you call the top 20 players in whatever game you play, if you think back to arcade era now, you can still call out 5 to 10 names that are still on top.
Facts.
In no matter which game we call. Street Fighter, Tekken, Marvel, whatever game we pick out, unless it's a new game, you know what I mean? A new game that came out, that's not in an iteration. You know what I mean?
The top 10, the top 20 is still relatively the same for the most part.
The same dudes that we grew up playing with.
Yeah. And it's crazy you said those like top 20, top 50, because there's people now saying that we need to go back to when only first place mattered. So first place only mattered when there were 6 of y'all. Okay.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Let's stop with that.
The thing here, though, like I talked to somebody about this too, because they were talking about like, first place, right? I said, look, a first place is like it's relative to the difficulty of the tournament. It's like I could come in first place at like a 30-man tournament and then go to a major and go 0-2, which that has happened.
Right. Or the path that you followed in the tournament. Just to add that to
it. So Andrew, I'd like to hear from your perspective here, as someone who manages players for a team, the current talent pool, would you say you would prefer the talent pool of 15 years ago, or would you prefer the talent pool of now? Are there still killers? Well,
that's tricky.
I'm going to tell you why. Okay. That's interesting.
I'm going to tell you why. So the amount of players now is great and phenomenal, but the dedication that the players had before is vastly different compared to now.
I agree with that.
Yep,
like 100%. Like if you think about,
but how much does that matter? And I mean that like literally, there's that many more players.
No. The problem is that if you take into account like the Josh Wongs or the Justin Wongs or Alex Valles or Ricky Ortiz's that literally were playing in someone's basement or going to the laundromat to play on the cabinet for like 8 to 10 hours a day every day, they showed so much more heart when it came to learning any game that they wanted to touch, opposed to now it's literally just 50, 100,000 players that are just playing online, taking the information that other people are putting together and just dissecting it and replicating it. Right. And some of them aren't even replicating. No, because some of them are replicating it wrong, and you notice that.
I mean, sure, some are, but like law of large numbers here. You're going to have better players who just have access to that stuff for free.
Yes, but they will never. They can only replicate. It's not the same as someone who's able to actually go and create that tech, because once someone else figures out what they've done, they're going to go find something new that no one else knows.
Can I add to this? Can I add to this real quick? Can I add to this? The reason here's what I extrapolate from what you just said. The reason why those people became great was because they were formed in the fire versus learning it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
But the thing is, that's been the
they-
argument for every major sport, and it's been conclusively wrong in every major sport. I don't really see why esports would be any different, right? Like, yeah, there are indubitably like really good players from effectively any era, but like the amount of information you have, and just the fact that there are so many more players will like. If you have an infinite number of darts, you're going to hit the bullseye, right? Like you're going to have more people who have better reflexes, better knowledge, and better skill sets, regardless of how long they've been at it or like how they got there. Really, like you basketball is a perfect example. Everyone talks about how great Magic Johnson is. Magic Johnson would probably be a mediocre player today because he did not have the same level of freakish genome that LeBron James has. I shouldn't say average, right? Like he was a smart dude. He was very talented at certain things. But like
he wouldn't be as dominant, you would say.
Right. The floor keeps going up in like every major field, every field of human endeavor, the more people get into it. And like you're going to still have standouts, don't get me wrong. But
geniuses,
if it keeps going, yeah. But like if you have more players, you're going to have more genius.
I understand it from both instances, because like you get players who X copy and they X copy extremely well, but then you have people who X copy, but they X copy the wrong thing, or they X copy something and they don't know how, like they see what it is, but they don't understand why. So it's like, okay, he does this, so I should be able to do this because I play the same character, but they don't know why they do that, whatever that is, or in what instance. So
definitely,
the karate refers to that as the bunkai.
Right.
You don't know the true meaning of the kata. You're just doing the kata. You're doing the punches. You're doing the kicks, but you don't understand the history of what does the block mean? What did he block before he threw the punch?
Right.
I agree.
Exactly.
The thing is, there's a democratization there, though. Like, there is now the ability for people who are not necessarily that great at the game to come up with new stuff that other people can use. And you see that, like, there are people in Tekken who are finding some pretty wild situational things that a good player can just file away in the back of their head, right? Like, there are situations that you're seeing, and you're seeing good players, like, one who comes to mind is Rest, right? Like, he demonstrated a bunch of stuff that I don't think was new, just new in the way that it was being applied and synergized. And like that's a really different sort of thing. Like there's a difference of kind there in terms of like what you can do. And like if you're going to have more players who are capable of actually executing at that level, the more players you have. It's just
so here's the thing, and I always feel like it's always a balanced situation. You have people who are, they feel like they can be better because they're forged in the fire. However, they also have a lack of ability to actually grind things out. So in other words, it's like, yeah, I can't be in the lab. I have to play people. I have to do it this way. I can't learn any other way. It's like you just don't have the patience to, and you don't understand how to make it work. You don't have to spend forever in the lab, but you do need to go in there to get specific things done. Or you can make use of, the online thing with your friend who maybe you can play with and say, hey, I need you to do this so that way I can work on countering it. And then you can forge yourself in the fire and still lab at the same time. On the other end, you have people who are absolute lab monsters, but they can't perform in tournament. First person that comes to mind, Desk. Desk is great when it comes to figuring stuff out, but he admittedly himself says he's just not a tournament guy. Like he can't execute in it. And I feel like nowadays there are people, and I've watched it. I've watched somebody, I sat there and played somebody in Garo, and he was learning the game, and he's like, yo, I need to check something. All he did was go online, look at a combo, and he was able to do it like 2 minutes later. And I'm just like, what?
I hate those guys. I know what you're saying, man. I hate those dudes. But now we're talking about personality traits, as you mentioned before, where your ability to learn, right? Some people learn through the fire. Some people learn from reading. Some people learn from watching. Some people learn from hearing. I've heard people have conversations about theory fighting and go, you know what, you're right. And then they apply it at their conversation. I'm like, you know what, shut up. I hate you.
I'm sorry, that's actually me. That's actually me.
Get him out of here.
Oh my God, all right. Get out of you. Those are the people you want to plug out their controller when they're playing, and look at them dirty and walk away. You know what I mean? Like it's those type of things. And I think as the arena grows and the player base grows, you're gonna find people like that. For me, for the people that are in Ingenious, you like the desk, the automatic, Javits. Those are the people that were always able to break down the game and find, oh, you have to make a micro step of a half frame to do this and for this combo to work. And then IDOM will see it and do it in tournament. And you're like, man, what the? I didn't even know which way to block, bro. Like, what are you? Is my stick broken? What happened just now? Like,
well, before we get too far into that, let's segue into our next topic, which kind of follows that. Top 5 game-for-game players of all time.
Who the hell thought that up?
I'm gonna just
talk to Josh on that one. I don't know.
Just blame Josh.
I'm gonna just flat out say it. I feel like the number one spot it belongs to one of 3 people, which is actually, well, there's a couple people, but honestly, I feel like Ryan.
I will be right back. I have to help break stuff in.
Yeah.
Right. No worries. Do you think?
Yeah, go ahead. I really feel like Ryan Hart is one of the people that.
Oh, easily.
Yeah, he has to be.
He doesn't get enough credit, which is weird to me because he's proven that he's just a monster across all fields.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
very much so.
You gotta remember the mic drop moment when him and Rip were going at it, and he was like, "Dude, I've won more tournaments than you've entered."
Right.
I almost turned the stream off when he said that. I was like, you know what? I was like, I don't need to hear anymore. I don't need to hear anymore.
It's like 8 o'clock in the morning. You're like, you know what? I'm going back to bed. All right, guys, have a good night.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
That's right. We're leaving. We're done here.
Right.
It's like, just shut it down. Shut it all down.
All right. So let me. I'll throw my 3 and then I'll shut up. I'll say, or 3 or 4.
I thought it was 5.
All right. No, but I know it's 5, but you started 1, so I'll throw my 4 and stop.
Okay.
Ryan, I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
I'll say Daigo. I'll say Taquito. And I'll say Justin Wong. Are 3, 4 that I'll off bat. And I'm talking KOF, Garou, Mark of the Wolves, Tekken, Street Fighter, CVS2, all the other iterations and iterations of the game, like they can play. Sanford Kelly. There's my 5. I'll shut up after that. Those are my 5. Those are my 5 right there. And remember, most of my 5 right now, right, are people that are almost commercial in our understanding and knowledge. We're not including Africa. We're not including Pakistan. We're not including South America. We're not including what other region? France and all of Europe and all these other places, right? So we're arguing aperture right now, right? What have we seen? Brazil, Dominican Republic. Because look at DRA, Joshi, and all those other dudes, like Mena came out. Mena's a young OG. Mena's was trained by the people that have been winning tournaments in that arena for a very long time.
Yeah.
The information, there's an opacity problem there for sure. Like, one of the things that we were just trying to do for the charity event that we're running this week is we were trying to set up like Tekken lobbies for different regions, right? Like, get some folks from Europe, get some folks from Africa, get some folks from South Asia. And it's incredibly hard to find anyone even inside of one game, let alone people who have like that cross game like competency and excellence. It's really hard to find those people unless you know where to look.
Yep.
Because like, we're going to just talk about, 3 or 4 Japanese names come up, and like, that makes sense because everyone knows who Daigo is, right?
Right.
He's probably
Tokido,
anyway.
Yeah.
But like, who's elsewhere that no one knows about?
Well,
and that'll only change over time. That'll get better over time, but it's weird right now.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, I look at like people's like overall ability across a whole bunch of different games. I know some people feel like it's too soon to mention him because I always hear it, but honestly, Sonic Fox is one of those names. Like, Just think
I was
about
gonna
it.
say that's one of my
Yeah,
five.
yeah. I would definitely put him in there.
Just think
Genius
about it. I
and
remember when he was.
consistency. Genius and consistency with
I
that
remember
little
when he was
boy.
up and coming. He would be at Big E tournaments, and this man would be in top 8 in like 5 different games.
Mhm.
And it would just be like sometimes he'd be like, all right, I gotta concentrate on this. So, I'm dropping out of Persona, I'm dropping out of Under Night, and then I'm just gonna focus on DOA, Injustice, and MK. Or like whatever combination of stuff that he would do, but he'd make top 8 and he would just like in a bunch of games. And it's like, how could people not see the consistency? Skullgirls, all these other stuff. Like that man is he's really good.
I think a
This
lot of
is
it
really
was
interesting.
just. I think a lot of the hate was just from people that didn't play the games that he was like doing very well in. So say like Tekken players would be like, oh well, he couldn't play Tekken, or like MK players be like, oh well, it's
And then they
like
come in and play Tekken and they kick
yeah,
your ass anyway.
yeah. So it's like
They are
to be fair, like I've watched Sonic play Tekken, and he's extremely good. He makes really good reads.
But they're playing
But-
fundamentally, like they're playing
Right.
a fighting game,
Right,
which
exactly.
is not a knock. That's like an incredibly difficult skill. I can't do it.
Yeah,
But when they're playing Tekken, they are playing a fighting game
yeah.
as opposed to Tekken, and it works.
And like, I mean, I've told people because I mean, if you look at it, Sonic is primarily a 2D player, so things in 2D games make a little bit more sense sometimes, occasionally, for the most part.
And I'm very
But once
confusing.
but once you get into that third dimension, man, things go right out the window. And I've always said that like a lot of 2D players end up having a lot of trouble with side steps and like side walking and moves
Yeah.
tracking for no apparent reasons. Say
And
like
I feel like they've adapted very well because if
Oh,
you
yeah.
watch them play Soul Calibur or Tekken, it's like, wow, you would never think that they weren't a 3D player.
right,
But at the same time, like, if you have a good knowledge of your overall fundamentals, like there's a player, Korean Panda, he would say that like MK was pretty much like Tekken, baby Tekken. And I had to think about what he meant by that. And I'm like, you know what? It kind of makes sense when you think about it, like fundamental wise. Like MK does
Oh.
have very weird fundamentals for a 2D fighter, but like, yeah, like I get it. And not a lot of people can make that correlation because I see people who are 3D fighters and they try to like step into the 2D fighter realm, and there are just certain things that don't make sense to them. Somebody was having a problem with the concept of unblockables in 2D
So-
fighters, unblockable setups, where it says like, yeah, it's not like that in 3D.
Yeah.
This topic reminds me of a podcast that Justin Wong released back in 2010, 2011, talking about the fundamentals of taking mechanics and knowledge from one game and transferring them to another. And it was like a 3-hour long podcast. I listened to it like 4 or 5 times. It was like one of the best things I actually ever heard that came from someone in the FGC. Because he talked about how he went from playing Guilty Gear, understanding like instant air dashes, FRCing, like spacing, decision making, and that, and transferring that over to like Third Strike, or transferring that over to Street Fighter 4, or transferring that over to Tekken. And like the mechanics that were able to be applied to different games, he was able to move them over, and he was still able to be successful in it. I feel that Sonic Fox is doing that exact same thing. He's finding those few mechanics that he can build a generalized like fundamentals off of for himself,
Mhm.
and moving from game to game, building up his repertoire, and he's just continuing to go.
it's. I think a lot of people call it like legacy skill. So like you just
Yeah.
Or
you
Mhm.
take
transferable skills.
Yeah,
Transferable
yeah,
skills,
It's
absolutely.
thank you, David.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
transferable skills.
Mhm.
I like to I had a discussion with somebody about this. It's like it's a talent, and I'm not saying it's not a hard work talent, or it's not hard work, but there is a raw talent to people's abilities, and then there's a natural talent. Natural talent is what you can naturally do with a video game when you play, and the raw talent is built up as you play the game. So, you've been playing games for years. Your raw talent allows you to step into a game and apply what you know to start, in some cases, just start knocking heads together as you play that game. You may have never played this game once, but your raw talent, which is all that experience you built up, allows you to do that. And Sonic Fox has a lot of raw talent. He practices and it shows. Like I could be watching somebody else's stream and that man's on there, or they're on there. Excuse me. Sorry about that, Sonic Fox. If you watch this, they're on there, and they're discussing, they're playing. They're laughing, they're joking, but they're putting in the work. And there's a lot of raw talent, and that's a thing that I feel like most people just don't understand. Like when they think that somebody's is natural talent, it may be there, but it's that raw talent. Daigo has gone on record saying he is a slow learner, and people are like, Daigo's a slow learner. I was like, I can see it. Look at how long it actually takes for Daigo to pick up steam and become dominant, especially like look at Street Fighter 5. He could beat people, but he was nowhere near dominant at the beginning. And
he's Batman. He's Batman.
He needs prep time.
He needs prep time. Yo, who did he 10-0 after they won Evo? Was it Taquito?
Yep.
Like he 10-0'd him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, but he put in the work. He looked for every opportunity to exploit, and he did. He's Batman. And then look, and like Batman, the fictional character, but he's consistent.
True.
Once he gets prep time, he's gonna beat the mess out of you.
Yep.
Every time and time again. And you give him a platform, and this is from Vampire Saviors until now. You know what I mean? Like you're talking about every game. Yo, people were afraid of him in Alpha 2.
I remember.
They wouldn't even hit a button. That's back when before you couldn't dash. They were walking and they wouldn't hit a button in ranges against Daigo because he would space so well, right? So to your point, I really believe that what was going on was that like there was a guy in Miami, his name was Alex Navarro, and I watched Alex Navarro play Tekken 5 and I wanted to throw up because he wasn't doing anything. He was just hitting jab and doing whatever. And I'm like, bro, this is the worst Jin I've ever seen in my life. But, crouching one was the best thing ever in like that game. And
Dick Jab was so good.
And
that's how almost everyone plays anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's facts.
But he was beating people that were really good in Tekken, but not really good at fighting games. He was better at fighting games than all around, but he was beating better Tekken players.
You probably see this, Norse. You probably see this more in other games for sure. Like fighting games. I'm weird. I've only played Tekken for the last 20 years, so I'm just broken inside. But like if you look at shooters, right? Like shooters, the set of skills that you pick up in like a first person shooter is way more consistent than the set of skills. And there are transferable skills for sure, but like map placement, general sort of 3D headspace movement in a first person shooter is something that doesn't go away when you switch games. Whereas in a fighting game, you're relearning a lot more of it every time, and that's probably why you see so many fewer of these players. Some people just seem to be wired for it, for sure. I mean, Ryan is a great example, right? Like Ryan can pick up any fighting game, go, oh, okay, and suddenly you're all dead.
Yeah.
Whereas like in shooters, you see that all the time. That's a very, very common thing, right? Like somebody who's decent at shooters can pick up one, jump to the other, jump back. It's a much lower barrier to entry, and then fighting games are the level of mechanical density is just weird.
Yeah.
Weird or just what it is?
It's weird to me. Dense. I come from shooters.
No, but so did Yipes. Yipes was a Call of Duty player, and then you touch Marvel. And this is my biased opinion. Whenever
he's one of the top
Marvel
5, by the
player,
way.
Yeah, he's the top. You play a Marvel player, and you try to mix them up, and they're like, that you took 17 frames to do that. I'm gonna block that in my sleep. Yeah. Where a regular player is like, bro,
it's like I got hit.
No idea what you just did.
I got hit.
Right, I got hit. I've watched people do cross ups and go, yeah, me too, dog. Me too. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing that you can do about it.
Like, speaking of Yipes, I've watched Yipes in a lab, and he just does like just one random thing. Oh, I appreciate the follow. He just does one like random thing, and you just look at it and you're like, I got hit. Like, I'm dead now because I definitely didn't block that at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Alex
Like,
Garvin, there's so many. Yeah, I'm sorry. Josh, hold now that you're back, nice break.
Yep.
We
turn your mute off.
Turn your mute off. Give
I like your product placement.
I know, right? I like your product placement, Ed. The Red Bull is pretty sick, son. You know what I mean? Who are your top 5 players? You missed ours, so I want to hear, because now you're unencumbered by our bias and our experience and everything.
True.
What do you think? Well, who are your top 5?
My 1A, 1B. So this is difficult for me. But I think I've got, you know what? It's no longer a 1A, 1B. It's going to be a 1 and a 2. For the longest time, my number 1 has been Justin Wong. He started, his 10-year Marvel run is something that you'll never have recreated. Number 1, a game will never be around for 10 years untouched. That's just by the environment alone. That's just by nature. That's just a long-standing. That's like one of those. What's that college football score record where I think it was like Georgia Tech or someone just beat the brakes off some other team. It was like 112, 117 to whatever. It'd be nice if we had one of those. Like, Jamie, look that up real quick. Who was that? The Georgia Tech. It's already on. I was like, hold on. This is something I need to understand.
No. Football just scares me. Y'all are weird.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Northerner here. Football is fake.
Well, it would be Justin because, like, it would have been Justin. Justin's my number 2 now. So I'll say it. He was my number 1 forever. He's my number 2 currently, and that would be because, let's just talk about his accomplishments. I'm not going to talk about why he's number 2 because I think to try and take away from the legacy, there's no room in the conversation for that unless you're like really trying to like push to justify your other choices. But I feel pretty comfortable with the other ones. Number 2 would be Justin. 10-year Marvel reign, not losing a tournament, will never be recreated again. Everyone for years said that he's just a Marvel player. So what did he do? He went and became one of the best Super Turbo Third Strike players. He went and won Tekken at final round. Like, he's done it all. He can play anything. He plays KOF. He can play anything at a high level. He's the number 1. He's the number 1 North American fighting game player of all time. In fact, I would say number 1 America's player of all time. Number 2 overall. Number 1 would have to be Ryan Hart. I'd have to say Ryan Hart. Ryan Hart could play across multiple games at a high level. He owns world records, like legitimate world records, where he didn't stay, in New York the entire time. Not sure if that's making it too specific, but we'll go right out and say it. GM, bro, you got to leave, bro. You got to travel, homie. Help that legacy travel.
I know that's exactly
I
what
agree.
you're gonna say too.
Yeah, like, listen, I ain't shy, y'all. I'll just do the sub.
But no, I mean, in all honesty, I agree with that. I think that while GM is an excellent player, he needs to travel. Like, he needs to put that ability that he knows he has and that he'll tell everybody that he has. He needs to put it to the test. And like, I mean, you can't stay in your borough forever and be the king of the borough, and then if there happens to be a big tournament there, you show out and you beat everybody, but then those people go on to like Texas or Georgia or Cali, Florida, so on and so forth. The people that you beat, they end up winning a tournament somewhere else. So it's like, okay, that was that one stumbling block in New York, but I can beat anybody else anywhere else. So it's like,
Yeah.
you're that one that one little Lego in the floor that I stepped on. All right, it hurts, but I'm still moving. So
Speaking of
Well, and that's
out, and before you continue, I just want to ask everybody's feelings on this because I'm about to mention a player that I feel is really overlooked as far as like his skill across multiple games, and that's Chris G.
yeah,
Not even in my top 10.
uh,
Not even in my top
what?
10.
wow.
Why are we talking about skill or personality right now, Josh?
I'm
You
talking
need-
about skill.
I tell you what,
Skill.
in
We're gonna leave Chris out.
Marvel 3 and Marvel, not even just Marvel 3. We'll expand that to Marvel overall all day. Absolutely. Top 5, top 3, not even a discussion. Let's hear no
Okay.
argument.
Okay,
Mortal Kombat.
Overall.
Mortal Kombat.
and don't forget about Third Strike.
Mm-hmm. Third Strike, he was a terror along the East Coast. New York,
He
North
also does something
Carolina,
that most
South.
people don't do. He places high at majors in Smash. Like, like most
Mhm.
FGC people don't actually do that. Like
True.
traditional FGC. Excuse me. I
Yeah.
will use.
Let me
that
ask y'all this:
terminology.
Would y'all put Chris G in over Leffen? Because I've got Leffen in the top 10.
Hey,
I would
what
put
else is left in play?
Leffen
Dragon Ball
Leffen played
Fighters.
fighters. Leffen
Yeah, he
played
does play
Marvel.
fighters.
He actually plays
Thank
other
you,
games.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah,
that
but
he
does
a lot of
Leffen do
playing.
well
And
in
listen,
other fighters?
and listen, you want to talk about like personality clashes? I got no love for Leffen. I don't think he's a bad person. I just think he's an asshole, and I just Ricola, you motherfucker. Like, I don't care.
I know the burger flipping thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, okay.
that was a hot take that his mama couldn't privilege him out of. So I'm just gonna put that out there.
Okay. All right. You got Chris G, Leffen.
So,
We'll have
so
notable
hold on.
mention. Okay.
Well,
So let's do our
yeah,
top 5 and
in the top
notable
five.
mentions.
So my top 5. Well, I guess
You're
I'll go
2,
ahead.
Josh. You're 2. And
I get-
let me tell you right now, you missed the conversation, but a lot of us had those 2 in our top 5 as well.
Okay.
So,
So
let's hear your
I'll go
opinion.
ahead. Here's the other 3. You ready? Number 3, Sonic Fox. Sonic
Okay.
Fox.
Also mentioned.
Too many games, too many accomplishments, too versatile to even start listening. Okay. And
Before we jump on
they are
Sonic
just-
Fox, can I
they are
add?
just beginning.
Can I add that let's not forget that little boy was like 18 and had like $250,000 in winnings?
True.
Can we not forget that? Like, he had house money and he wasn't even an adult yet.
I think they identify as they now. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did someone?
Yes.
They do.
Correct. That
Okay.
Yes.
they do
They,
identify.
them.
Yes.
I'm
I'm sorry. Right.
You know,
We do respect pronouns here.
That's gonna be like our old man thing that we can't work on. It's like I swear I'm not.
sorry.
Yeah.
Right,
I'm
Listen,
I'm just dumb. I'm just dumb.
believe me, it's not intentional at all, Sonic,
It's
and
the same
we do.
thing, but there's this fine line.
Yeah, we do apologize, but yeah, we do respect your pronouns.
Yeah, for real. Facts. Go ahead, Josh.
Sonic Fox.
But I agree with Sonic Fox.
By the way, Sonic Fox is the only player that I can think of right now with the potential to surpass Justin and Ryan. It's going to be difficult to get the accomplishments of Justin along with the longevity of Ryan as well. Like one of the best abilities is availability, and that's something that Ryan has always been. It doesn't matter what game he plays it. He plays it at a high level.
True.
Sonic Fox the same way. Now that,
That's
so
3. 2 more.
Ready for number 4 or 5?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and give you number 5. Some folks might consider this. Daigo's not my top 5. Taquito would be number 5.
What?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. No.
So
Yeah,
Taquito would be my Taquito takes number 5. I'm open to saying Daigo's number 6, but Taquito's number 5.
Okay.
Daigo is timeless and plays everything at a high level. Taquito is beloved and plays everything at a high level. And I don't even think I think Taquito even plays Tekken. Taquito was playing Tekken for a little while as well.
Tekken, KOF,
He played Akuma.
KOF.
He played Akuma. He didn't play Tekken.
Oh my god!
I'm messing.
Oh
I'm
my
messing.
God.
I'm messing.
But that's Punko too, right? Punko was top 8.
Yeah.
When Tekken 7 came out,
No, his Akuma was top 8. That's different. That's different.
So
That's
you
different.
ready for number 4 though?
Yeah.
Who's number 4? Because
You ready
yours
for
is
number
sounding
4?
an awful lot like mine. So
You ready for number 4?
Mm-hmm.
Miss Ricky.
Oh, okay.
oh, okay, that's actually
that's
a
legit
good one. I give you that one.
That girl, Pretty Ricky. Miss Ricky Ortiz, number 4.
You want to
Ricky
know
Ortiz is pretty
Number
legit.
4.
is?
Yeah, no, I
Because
agree.
you already said 4 out of the 5. Mine is Infiltration, and the reason
Ooh,
being,
that's a good one. That's
the
a good
reason
one. He's
being
got
is because if you
multiple
watch
games.
Infiltration play, and like he just dominates games that he plays. It's crazy. He's a really
He
solid
is.
player.
No, he had 4 games. We're talking about Street Fighter
Street
Cross
Fighter.
Tekken, Street Fighter
Street Fighter
4,
4.
Street Fighter Cross Tekken, Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter 5, and Samurai Showdown. After that, what does he have? That's 4 games.
He does play Tekken. I mean, like all Koreans
play
play Tekken. So, no, it's
That's
true though.
that's their bar mitzvah. They have to go to Green.
They have to play Tekken. It's like when they're born, they have to Korean backdash. Like they have to light dash and Korean backdash when they're born. It's in their legacy.
Son, we have to take you to the arcade.
That's
You're turning 16 today, and
Right.
Yep.
you do not
That's
come
like,
home with
like
10 win
they say
streak.
in
You do
Korea.
not come home.
Like they say in Korea, there's only 4 things guaranteed: death, taxes, military service at 18, and having to play Tekken.
or StarCraft.
Yeah. It's like you either play Tekken or you play an RTS, one or the other.
Whatever you do, you're gonna work super hard at it and be really good.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So,
I don't know if I agree with Infiltration, man. I don't know if he has a long enough legacy.
I could see him in like that 5 through 10 slot. I mean, sorry, that 6 through 10 slot. But I would fight on behalf of Ricky, because if you go back and look at her resume, and then again look at longevity, and then just look what she's been able to do, and then as well as stay relevant, her impact on individuals as representation, like it's really hard to find somebody who can match that.
And you're right, 100%.
Transferable skill. That she is an example for transferable skill. Like when Do and her were playing in the Capcom Cup Championship, and I was watching her out, and Do was good, right? Hands down.
Yeah.
But when she was he hit a button at the wrong space and got roundhouse for hitting a button. You got hit with roundhouse? Oh my God. Like, are you serious? She whiff punished you with roundhouse, bro. Pack it up. Just go ahead and give her the win and just go home. She 10 times in a 2 out of 3 set. You got hit with roundhouse? Come on, man. Oh man. But yeah, no problem.
You want to talk about mental toughness as well? What about coming to East Coast Championships, having ice thrown at her, and all the slurs and all that being yelled,
right,
and still making it to grand finals?
Yep.
Right.
I got nothing but respect for Ricky. She's one of my favorite players.
Absolutely.
Well, I think we can move on to our
Daigo, Sonic Fox, Ricky Ortiz, and Daigo.
All right.
I'm sorry,
We can move on to our next.
Let me just say this before you segue, John.
Okay.
And that's not to recognize all the skills of all the other greats that we know of and they're just not thinking about right now. The people like Fudo, who came from I think he was a Virtual Fighter player back in the day, and
yes, he was Virtual Fighter originally.
Mago and all these other old school heads that we can throw in there. Alex Valle and a lot of people are like, oh, he's Mr. Street Fighter. All right, play him in Tekken. Fuck around and find out. You know what I mean? Play him in Tekken. See what's up. Play him in KOF. See what's up. Play him in Samurai Showdown. Garo, Mark of the Wolves. See what's up. Play him in things that you don't think he knows how to play. Pick up the controller and find out. And see why he's called what he's called. You know what I mean? There's so many other people that we could possibly mention and think about right now that could easily be transferred in that spot. So the ones that I guess I don't know if our decisions are based off not only statistics and longevity, but also maybe a little bit of our own personal bias and emotion towards seeing that
These are
those
mock,
people
these
as
are
we
mock
grew up.
drafts. It's just personal
I
opinion.
mean, yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
try to look at things like as objectively as possible because there are players that I know that are like.
So, was there anyone that was on everyone's list?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Justin,
I think Justin
Ryan
Reinhardt
and Sonic Fox were
and
the
Sonic
like,
And
Fox.
Taquito. Taquito came up at least 3 times.
Yeah.
Taquito came up at least 3 times.
All right, let's move on. Let's
um,
move on to the next topic.
Yeah.
We start going off on tangents after a while. Got to round y'all back. Oh gosh.
We lost to Josh.
How you gonna fall off your own call?
I'm saying. It's like Periscope all over again. Hey, wait a minute, Davey. You can't be saying nothing. Not nothing.
Huh?
You be falling off calls all the time.
I don't know what you're talking about. Could you go on to the next topic, please?
Nah, you getting hit with this rollback.
Hey man, move on to the next topic, man. Come on, get off it.
All right. So we're gonna discuss the rollback netcode response for Guilty Gear, which was pretty amazing for them because of, I mean, the sales on Steam were ridiculous, and then the amount of players that were playing it as well. And I mean, there's been, as far as I can tell, there's been nothing but positives just from the release and the work they put in with the netcode.
I wonder where it's at on Steam right now.
That's a good
I
question.
pulled it up and taking a look.
Because I never paid the $4 to get the game that I was supposed to.
I think it's going for like $15 right now. So wasn't it going for like
No, it was like
something
it was
crazy?
like $3 or something like that.
Yeah, I went to go look for it yesterday. And it was like 15 bones. I was like, damn. I
Yeah,
missed it.
well, too late now. You missed the boom.
You know what? All right. I think who was the company that they worked with in order to get their rollback right? Because I had mentioned I think a conversation came up recently with me and a friend of mine.
GGPO?
GGPO is just the technology.
Oh.
It's open source. You can get it for free. So Guilty Gear is right now like on, I don't know, top 500 games on Steam, which is pretty good for a game that's old.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I thought they were just working with some mod team. I could be wrong about that.
I think that's to me the argument that we were having was, okay, you're actually listening to the community. You listen to the community. You're seeing the responses in the ether as to what we need, and you supply that with a game that is, we would say, classic right now.
Yeah.
And it's a win. It's a win. I don't know what the cost was. I'm not going to go into that, business aspect of it. But you provided two of the very major things that we needed because of course, also the pandemic, which is forcing our hands. We can't go to tournaments. So give us a platform that we can play on that we will not complain about.
So this is what I.
Go ahead.
Good. Sorry, this is what I do for a living. Software development, stuff like that. And like the thing is, like looking at this in terms of just pure monetary stuff is probably wrong. This is learning how to do this, right? Like this is a platform they don't really care about anymore. It's really old. Any code, like I seem to recall they just gave the folks who did this the code and were like, have fun. And like, who's going to learn anything super useful from a fighting game that's 5 years old in terms of like, there's no competitive advantage lost to it. So like, the money is, even if they did not make back their money, and the sales spike suggests they probably did okay. Like this is exactly like how you learn how to do it for your next game and how to do it right? Like what the tolerances are, what you can get away with, what you need to rely on, stuff like that. And so to that end, like this could just be a research project that they decided to let out there, from the perspective of their next game and the games going forward. This is just useful information for them. And it's something that almost nobody else can do right now. Because guess what game isn't on PC? Would that be Tekken 6 or Tekken Tag 2? right? Like they can't do this. They don't have these things on live platforms. So Arxis is in a really interesting position where they can get a lot of information about games that they like don't have to care about anymore. Whereas everyone else has way more work to do.
So would you say it's almost like SNK having the capability of being able to go back and just put out beta test new netcode on some of the older titles, like maybe KOF 2002 or 98, which are beloved by KOF
Or
fans.
Garo.
Don't those use Fightcade though?
I think
believe
people
they're
do
available
play.
on Fightcade.
They are on Fightcade, but they're also on Steam.
Okay, I haven't looked
Yes.
at the Steam ones because the way Fightcade works is Fightcade actually just simulates the hardware for every frame.
Yeah.
And then like it does rollback by like resetting your console rather than rollback by like resetting the game. So I don't know how they did it for SNK stuff. I sometimes forget SNK exists. But like
You're such a Tekken purist.
it's not that I'm a purist, it's that I'm bad at fighting games.
I mean, sometimes you gotta stay in your lane, man. You know what I'm saying?
Just tell them that it's like, okay, 16-bit art, jagged sprite art doesn't really appeal to
Scan
me.
lines. Ugh.
I played Streets of Rage as a kid. I'm fine.
That is an awesome comeback. And I'd like to say that, Ed, you're my new favorite person on the call, and that's all there is to
Sorry,
it.
Josh.
Yeah. Continue on.
It's okay.
Well, I guess we don't really need to stay on this topic for very long.
No, because I think it's obvious. It's obvious. They did something smart that did not require a lot. That now, like Ed suggested, has given them information. Like that's what you should do. Like I feel like a lot of these game manufacturers, they just step back or they just like, yeah, whatever. The FTC has gone to this point now where we're doing events all over the world and we're streaming it. So why do we need to do this online thing? And it's like, no, because you're leaving out those platform of players that are now coming into the FTC, that are becoming popular through online, and then going to tournaments and doing it again in person.
Oh,
So,
David,
you know what I mean?
did you just bump set us for the next topic? Are we ready to spike it?
One quick
Are we
thing
ready to
on
spike
that
it?
before we switch over. I did look it up. The way SNK does it is the same way Fightcade does. They're just running emulators and syncing them. The other thing is that, this seems to be like a mod team, and that's an interesting topic for another one of these because mods in fighting games, it's a little weird.
True.
Not that anyone on this call has modded in Lobby Skip to a fighting game recently, but
and then had
Or-
had it light.
Had it, kind of borrowed.
I see your hands up.
Yeah.
We
won't
Can I
put
talk
so
with
much
people?
pressure on
We
the company
won't.
that
We won't.
update.
We won't talk about off of
You were there.
bed's project just kind of appearing in the game suddenly. Things like that. Just,
I need better people in my circle and in my life.
Handshake.
I'm tired of y'all. I'm tired of people.
we're just petty, man. We can't help it.
I mean, it's it's like it's 3 weeks. Man, it's just to think what you could have done had you been a little proactive.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
say it took 2 people 6 hours to reverse engineer the entire thing.
Anyway, moving on. Don DeMarco. When would it be responsible to start majors again?
Yeah, we're talking about these new players becoming involved. And I know Ed, you've seen quite a few in the New England area.
They pile
Like
in.
Aiden, I would love to see Aiden, at some of these offline majors, when things kick back up. But when would it be responsible? Like I think most of us are fairly rational people. We're probably going to have very similar answers across the board here, both from a legality sense, but that's also as just an ethical sense. But
Human decency.
yeah, exactly. Ed, human decency. That's why don't you stop? Why don't you hop in? When do you think it would be okay?
So I'm in a weird
Yeah,
spot
when-
because I do other event stuff. Like I just ran an event for my day job. And we did it completely online because no, we're not getting 1,000 people in a room. But I have a hard time seeing it until second half, if not fourth quarter of next year. For a couple reasons. One is like everyone is pinning their hopes on a vaccine in like this really weird way, right? Like they're all like, "Oh, it'll be fine as soon as we get it." Well, no, right? Like we have to make sure everyone gets it. Yep, you have to figure out how to protect people who can't get it.
You have to make
Like,
sure it doesn't turn
masks
people into zombies.
That helps. Like masks aren't going away because like there's a vaccine. We're going to have those for a while, right? And like that might be a better thing overall. But like on top of that, it's like you're going to have a ton of people who don't get the vaccine because they're crazy. And those people will be able to spread it to other people.
Facts.
And you have to like, are you going to require vaccination records to go to a tournament? I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you do like there are so many questions that it's going to take us a year to answer them, I think. Even aside from like, do we have a vaccine?
Mm-hmm.
Or
Yeah,
answer them, or agree to them, or come to some type of consensus, right? Like
Yeah.
the answer might be right there in your face, but now you're talking about personal preference. And all right, are you going to take a vaccine where you've never taken a flu shot, and then you're going to be like,
All
you
right.
got to do this to play video games?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Side note, flu shots are great. You should get one. You won't be sick for the entire winter. It's great.
You'll be sick for the first week.
I mean, a week is better than a couple months, though.
Hey, you're not wrong, but still, I don't like
Yeah.
giving up any time.
True. I agree with that.
Although we're all wearing masks now, and that seems to be cutting things down a lot.
Yeah. All right, Josh. How do you feel?
I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat. I mean, to me, if you're really needing that for whatever reason, you become dependent on that income. God forbid, because there's not much, if any, to be gained. But some folks are, they're kind of chomping at the bit to, bring that in, or at the very least keep their brand going because of they know the substantial damage that could be done to it. I think that it's kind of crazy where none of the only event that tried to transition online was Evo, and it was a horrendous failure in every sense of the imagination. I'm surprised Combo Breaker didn't hop on an opportunity to really kind of do their own thing. I mean, maybe Final Round might be something Final Round could look into to try and help kind of rebuild the brand. I hold on, just make sure my messages are going off here. Text.
Well,
Someone's screaming at you.
There's a
like, hey, what'd you say?
hold on, there's a
No,
calendar
but
reminder.
to kind of piggyback on the
question marks about question marks idea, which we've talked to about. Who have I talked to about? I've talked to John and David in here about this. So.
Well, not to kind of piggyback on the combo breaker thing. I think that was just more uncertainty.
How long is
So-
this actually going to go?
Yeah. So it's like, do you really want to just kind of jump out in a brand new endeavor, just out of the blue with no real preparation? So
And especially with all the changes in Rick's personal life too, with the
That's-
little one
yeah.
and everything of that nature. Like,
so yeah,
it-
I totally
He
get
can
that.
do some quiet.
yeah, I mean, if he could, I think he's in a great position to be able to kind of sit back and see how things play out. And I mean, like that's one of the things that's made Rick so successful is that he's been able to position himself to where even when some things like hit the fan like this, there's so much like passion for the brand he's built, and there's so much love for it that he can really kind of sit back, appreciate, and really kind of make next moves. Yeah, I mean, he can come back in 2 or 3 years, and Combo Breaker will be just fine.
Oh,
He's in a rare position. He's in a very, very unique position, where like they're, Final Round, admittedly, there's a lot of opportunity here for them to rebrand and perhaps try and build some goodwill there. More opportunity, if anything, for some of these online entities and just and some of the individual contractors just to get noticed. And because I'm not saying there are people here on this call that do things better than people
Oh,
under
I have
contract.
some thoughts.
I'm not saying that we might not. I'm not saying that there's people who can it's you could keep it's fresh. This okay. So this is a fresh idea, like something that you would keep in a refrigerator. There's there's we might have people here that we could talk to about how to bring a higher quality product to a sphere that's learned to be
You're gonna make
has learned to fetishize individuals who are challenging.
See,
Wow,
Karma's getting
took
so
Josh
much
out.
they're cracked.
They took Josh out. The man came for Josh.
Mm-hmm. Karma's getting to him.
Better
cut it out. Better cut it out.
Oh man.
Well, no, I think this is a great opportunity, because y'all able to hear me now? My back.
You're
My
back.
back?
Yeah, you're back.
You're back.
All right, cool. All right, okay. But I think this is a great opportunity for a lot of people, and I hope that the powers that be pay attention. Because there's why would you continue contracts for the amount of money that you're paying when you've got a lot of hungry people now who have got an impressive portfolio, more than what your own in-house people have? Bring them in. Get a better quality product.
That's going to be tough for them. Like, not like I gave up on, frankly, trying to do any of this stuff as like a commercial endeavor. I do this for fun.
That's the thing. They got to find people who are doing it for the same reasons.
That makes it extra fun. But like a lot of the stuff is, I think that a lot of folks right now, and I don't say this to dunk on anyone. I say this as like, I have an open door. If people want to, if people would like any assistance in improving their stuff, you know how to get a hold of me. And like, I don't say that to like put on airs. I really don't. I want everyone to do a better job because I want to stop doing this. I do this because other people should be. But like, functionally, folks thought that this was going to be a short-term thing, so there was very little investment, and now it's a lot of folks I think are stuck in a spot where they can't iterate. They can't take the stuff that they've been doing, and like some of it is because like this is a different mindset. We've done online and offline events before, and online events are not necessarily harder, but they're very different in terms of the way that you have to like approach stuff. I do everything myself. I have no staff. And like that means that my costs are functionally zero aside from, my time and my gear. But like they've built up around having staff. They've built up around having multi-person systems to do pretty much everything. And they just sort of to some extent took that online, to not entirely. Like everyone, the way that streaming is being done is not, is not many hands, but like it's going to be hard for folks to do that, because at the same time then it's hard to justify the costs, right? It's hard to justify the prices being charged for a lot of this stuff when it's like, oh hey, look at all these people we brought in. Like that has a mental anchoring effect on cost. Josh and I both work in tech. You know what happens when you bring in a dozen people? You get to charge for a dozen people. Are they doing anything? And like, so I don't know where we're at, and I'm really excited to see where it goes, because this stuff is actually secretly very, very easy. People have to
don't give away the secret, Ted.
People have to do it.
I'm glad you mentioned that too, about the, because what's the first thing that I'm trying to remember what the is it EBITDA, the expenses? I can't remember this. There's like an acronym. EBITDA. But what's one of the first things that if a company's going to try and get costs down, what's the first thing they get rid of?
Expenses.
What's the biggest cost? What's the biggest expense?
Payroll.
Yes.
Labor. That's right. Payroll. Labor. Biggest expense. You get, not only do you get rid of their salary, you get rid of having to pay for their benefits.
Mm-hmm. When you pay for benefits, I have a feeling that's a grim topic.
I can imagine. The word you were looking for, gentlemen, is EBITDA.
Yes.
EBITDA. I think
EBITDA.
Earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization.
Real quick,
that's it.
How many W-2s do y'all think there are in the esports team sphere? I'm just curious.
You mean W9?
No, I said W2s.
No, W2s.
I heard you. Yeah, I heard you, but I was correct. No, that was an edit on the Facebook post of W9. There's no W2.
Josh said he said what he said.
I'm saying what I said.
I'm committed.
It's like I said what I said.
You let this happen.
But yeah,
You feel you W2 that boy.
it is super contractor based, and I don't think that'll change anytime soon, right?
A lot of
No.
1099s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're cheap.
It's definitely almost like messing with the WWE.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Oh
Lots of
my
future endeavors
god!
in there.
So, and that's another thing too. Have y'all? Yeah, we won't get too much into this because I admittedly have not done enough research on it. I've heard a lot about Andrew Yang or Andrew Young reaching out to talk about how I guess athletes will get paid or compensation. I'm not sure if anyone familiar with this.
Haven't heard that.
No, I hadn't heard anything about it.
Called out White and was like, you guys are going to pay your fighters more than I think it was 18% or something like that. It's I'm wondering if those effects will bleed over into esports as well, because I believe it has to deal specifically with the individual contractor. And the big one being that they wouldn't be able to lock fighters down to essentially league exclusive contracts. So there would be no WWE exclusive superstars.
So like UFC couldn't just you have to fight for the UFC and that's it. Like you could
have a legitimate unified world champion.
Right.
So I have to do a little more research into that because I think that might be an interesting discussion for a later day, especially just overall. That'd be just fun to kind of think about how the implications overall to sports in general, as well as esports. But
well, continuing with the topic, Tempest, what do you think?
When you going to do an offline event?
All the way back.
As far as an offline event is concerned, well, one, I gotta reestablish myself because I just moved and I don't know if I'm gonna move again. But like, the COVID thing has just been kind of crazy on that end. And two, like once people learn how to behave themselves in a
not be disgusting,
in a public setting, it's like I know there are some people who know how to like maintain distance and wear a mask, but not everybody does. And honestly, you have the random factor. Depending on where your venue is, you're gonna get curious people that walk up and wonder what's going on, and not everybody's
breathe disease all over you.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, it's not even just like that. It's like if anyone's been to a convention or to a tournament, like you have to grab people by the shoulders reluctantly and yell "bathe."
Yeah,
it's not going to be better when you have to wear masks to do it.
I'm gonna tell you something that a friend of mine, we helped TO for each other. I kind of helped mentor him a little bit in growing his tournaments, but he goes by Uchi or Uchi Games. During his tournaments, he will literally he'll give a warning. He'd be like, all right, he's like, y'all know what time it is, stay fresh to play fresh. And he will literally go around with a bottle of Febreze and spray.
block.
I'm stealing that.
His venue actually made a banner that's on the wall and it says stay fresh to play fresh.
I love
that's
that.
Awesome.
I love that phrase. I love
that's
that phrase.
Awesome.
It's
stay
also
fresh
so much
or
better
play
than what
fresh.
we would do because we would just walk through the crowd and like spray people and then they look at us funny and be like, "Yo ass stink.
Mm-hmm.
You stink." And they would ram again.
Yeah, they just like
I know David's been there for that. I know he ran because he knew I was about to tell on him. I've seen David spray somebody, having them turn around and be like, "Oh, the front of you stink too," and then sprayed them in the chest.
I mean, for real though, I think once things start settling down, somebody really should look into a contract with like degree or something.
This is shameful. This is shameful to say. But
I was gonna say the fact that like no like company like that has decided to sponsor a player is kind of, I don't know. I feel like it's
well, I was gonna say what player would take it, but I mean,
I would take it. I'd be all day. Yo, let's go. Old Spice, call me up, man. I'll shoot. Put me in a commercial. I'll ride a horse.
Yo,
No,
I'll
yo,
go Ben-
hit me
I'll
up,
go Ben
Dub.
Ben.
Okay, how about
Put
that
me on
one?
the horse.
All day.
Serious.
'cause
All day.
here's the
Just
thing,
make Josh the horse.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
nowadays you can't just be a player. You gotta be like a content creator, especially if you want some sort of longevity.
You need to be a
Even if you're not-
brand. That's
you
you
gotta
need
be
to
a
be a
brand.
brand.
And
Look at Ryan.
if you're on Twitch, it's real easy to be like every half hour to an hour, like, yo, make sure you get something to drink, make sure you freshen up. Like, I'm gonna be here for a few hours. Go take a shower real quick or something like that. Like, you can do that. Like, or if you're making YouTube videos, you can quite literally just be like, yo, this is sponsored by Old Spice, reminding y'all to, wash your
Freshen
behinds
up.
and stay fresh. Yeah.
Public service announcement. I'm gonna walk into the shower and do some singing, play some music that's not gonna get these archives taken down later
Right.
by copyright
Hey,
laws.
hey, all it takes is a few lyrics, okay? Then we're at the
California
Hey.
knows how to
Hey, don't get me
how-
TOS.
how
You
to
better
boogie.
cut that out.
No,
Cut it out. Cut it out.
ban him.
DMC
like-
warning one.
I like my affiliate. Thank you very
warning
much.
one.
Look, I'm just gonna say it costs $5 a month for all the royalty-free elevator music you want. There, you have
You're
no.
not wrong.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll show you some links.
at this point, like, you got people that are like offering
Is public domain stuff that bad?
$10 and you get like 50 instrumentals. They're royalty free.
All right.
Yeah, like between Epidemic, Pretzel, Artlist, whatever, you can get it. You can get out the door in under $20.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Andrew, well, how do you feel? When do you think it'll be responsible to host a major again?
I find it funny, this question, because I actually had a conversation with a few of my venues in my region already about this. And they brought to my attention that they wanted to hold like 3-day events where they brought in a certain amount of people for each game that they wanted to run. And I had to explain to them, no, don't do it. It's not feasible. You're going to have people that just show up randomly because that's just how the FGC is. It will never work. You need to hold off until at least summertime towards the end of 2021 before we do anything.
It is really gross. Like, there are folks, and I'm not going to name any names, but I've yelled at them all online, so it's not going to be news. Like, there's people who are throwing down $100 a week to get a bunch of people in for a Tekken tournament in New York, and it's like,
That's
do
disgusting.
you want to kill people? I'm just I mean, like, if you have that on your conscience, it's technically not illegal.
Which is
If
crazy
your
to me.
morals are aligned with you making $1, go for it. Just keep me out of it.
Right.
But it
Don't involve
like-
any of my friends.
like a couple of venues around here, not venues I've ever had any relationship with, nor will in the future, sued the state to like be allowed to open up. And it's very, I get that it's hard, and I get that like taking an L sucks, but this is really bad. And it's gonna stay bad for a while, right? Like, we've had venues closed, and that absolutely sucks. I feel terrible for the folks who ran into it, but like, we can't have people killing everyone's grandmas because they want to push some buttons. And that's the thing that's the hardest to explain to people.
Okay, I agree with you 100%, Ed. It's not just everyone's grandmas, though. Literally, anyone is susceptible. It does not care who you are, what color you are, what gender you identify with, whether or not you have a good paying job or a bad paying job. It will kill you if you catch it at some point. It doesn't just go away.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, like, there's the other thing you have to take into consideration. You have people who show up to these tournaments who are like, immunocompromised.
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
and you have people who are high risk. They may not be immunocompromised, but they're high risk. People who have asthma, they're a high risk. People who have diabetes, they're a high risk. You know what I mean? And it's just like, it's like all these other conditions that make them high risk. Yeah, they can show up, but like, it's like anybody that's not taking proper care of themselves, otherwise, maybe they don't have those conditions and they don't know that they're carrying this disease, this virus. Like, they could be putting those other people at risk. So it's like, I don't know. it's always a go at your own risk. But honestly, like until we get some sort of like, hey, we've got a vaccine going around, I wouldn't risk a major. Maybe an invitational, but not a major.
I wouldn't even do an invitational because that's too much of a risk in the first place. You're
There's
taking
no return.
random.
There's no return
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
It's not even a matter of return, to be honest. At the end of the day, it's the possibility of how many interactions those people that you invited into a small enclosed tournament have with other people outside of it.
Like that's the mendacious thing that has been going around with these. Oh, people can make the decision for themselves. They're effectively making the decision for everybody else,
Right.
right? Like that's
Exactly.
how disease
It's not just for themselves.
Yeah.
It's not just for themselves.
No.
That's the
Sure.
Well,
Sure.
I was gonna get David. What is your opinion?
My
COVID's
opinion,
fake. They're putting on the death certificates. That's what David was about to say.
you know, like, okay, so, and we've all seen them. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, and you see these places, that we love, like 404 Esports is running, and they're out operating with COVID protocols, right? We see places in Africa and Iran that were running tournaments and nobody had a mask on. But there are other countries that have effectively beaten the disease. And I say that to give some context to what I'm saying, right? A lot of it has to do with how our players are going to respond to it. If someone's immunocompromised, you're absolutely right. They shouldn't be coming to our events. And I think that's one of the things with the market. But like as a TO quote unquote de facto leader, is it ethical? Um, and when you said that the end of, you mean quarter 4 of 2021, with the way how America is stubborn, maybe first quarter 2022, because now we have to, like, all right, you looked at it at the ethical part, which I absolutely think is paramount. Now let's talk about the um the fiscal responsibility. America, there's a lot of people within the FGC and America that have not bounced back and will not bounce back for a year or two. You've got people that are what, 10 months behind rent
yeah.
right now, mortgages that haven't been paid. Do you think that going to a tournament, although a great stress reliever, would be fiscally responsible to do?
To be fair, there have been even pre-COVID, there were plenty of people who put tournaments over rent, food, and other things like that. I'm just saying. I just got to put it out there. I'm just saying. But continue.
I can think of an individual, but I'm not naming names.
I'm not. I'm not pointing nobody out. I ain't pointing no fingers or anything. I'm just putting it out there in the ether, out there in the echo chamber, just letting people know. But yeah, continue.
And I'd like to apologize. Hey, this is the first call I'm on with you, and evidently you weren't aware that when you came on this call, you would be surrounded by these savages and these
you understand that I know Josh, right?
I do, and then by default, that makes you a terrible person as well. And I just want to apologize.
I own it.
To let you know.
Welcome to the family.
Yeah, man. Welcome to the family, brother. Welcome to the family. Oh, that's your cousin? Yep.
Yeah. Honorary.
All right. So, realistically, I would have said before, like, rolling into phase 3 that we're rolling into right now, that we would have been out of this in the mid quarter 2, the end of quarter 2, 2021. So June of next year. And I was calculating also the fiscal aspect of people getting jobs, going back to work, and then saying, you know what, man, I saved up enough. Let me go to the event. But and it's just crazy. It's crazy because we don't have a lot of people from what I can see, in our community that are essential workers. You know what I mean? And you're talking about what's that? Food, hospital, what else? People like you guys, IT, and all this other stuff, teachers that are doing the work that need to be done. A lot of these people right now, although they don't discuss it because uh, impotence, our financial impotence, is for men is something that we don't discuss. And as irresponsible as we want to call it, I don't think it's good. I think as TOs, we should not put that bait out there for the ethical, medical, and fiscal reason. I think those three things have to be met before we win a tournament.
I think that's a really good set of points because
No, I
like one of the things I'm relatively new to this. I used to run video for Boston, but like running events dealing with the political situation in general is kind of new to me. And the thing that I have noticed more than anything is that like of any community I've ever been a part of, the FGC really likes making bad decisions. I'll be honest, it's shocking. It's a little shocking. And like they're great people. There's some I don't understand sometimes. And like giving people bait like you say is just a lot of people are going to fail that wisdom check, so to speak, if they're given the chance.
I agree.
Yeah,
agree completely.
Agreed. And so therefore,
now I'm
my
sad.
answer is mid 2021. But unless America gets a collective mindset, I would say, man, I'm agreeing with y'all, man. And you mean fourth quarter? Fourth quarter is like really the soonest that we can do it. I'd love to see it, come back, really, but fourth quarter is like really and truly when I see people start having the disposable income where people with compromised systems are not in danger, and it's just like socially acceptable again.
Order and bring your mask.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree. In all honesty, I like just with the way things are going. I personally was looking at 2022 at the minimum.
It
Just
may be.
just given how, like I mean, like we said, there's been plenty of people who have come to tournaments pre-COVID that you would have thought they had COVID back then, just because of just because I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying. People always talked about the Evola, the Evola bar, the post tournament, the post tournament suds. I'm just saying that you got to look at stuff like that. So
I can't tell you how many times I called
and it happens
into
at
work.
every mass gathering.
Yeah, Ebola, the con flu, or I guess we can call it
Yeah.
con Rona
Yeah.
now.
yeah, con flu. Yeah,
Oh, con Rona's gonna happen.
con
isn't
Rona.
it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep,
that's gonna be
yep,
around
that's a
for
new
the rest of my life.
hashtag con Rona. Yep. But yeah, dude. Like, I mean, just given how people have moved pre-COVID, I really don't see us really opening things up for majors in person until at least like 2022.
At least not around here.
Side note: I never got tournament gunk until I got Daytona AIDS like a year or two ago.
Yo, I actually managed to survive that. Like, it didn't affect me.
Oh, I was in the worst of it. Daytona AIDS is something else. I was about to start wearing jeans and sleep on the beach. It was bad.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other interesting thing though ends up being like, so this is not like a panacea or anything. This isn't going to solve the problem, but like, I don't know if y'all noticed, but most of the world is doing an actually decent job of it. I have a feeling you're going to start seeing players travel, like go somewhere, quarantine for
No.
I mean,
America.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it because
I'm talking
Aren't you a
about.
Patriot, Ed?
No, but I mean, no. I mean, Ed has a good point.
I'm sorry.
But
Low hanging fruit is good fruit.
But
Yeah, well, I'm a coastal elite, so fuck all y'all.
But the problem that I see with that.
No, you're not. You're southern.
But the problem that I see.
We took away your coasts.
No.
Shut up, Josh.
Continue on.
No, but the problem.
Players, I can agree with them trying to travel within their territories, but the U.S. going out there is still going to be a no-go mid next year.
I don't know about that because like flights are real cheap right now. If you can get time off work, 2 weeks of quarantine is not actually that hard. Like tourism has gotten that like whacked.
But see, my
You mean
my thing
affordable?
is,
Affordable is the word you're looking for, Ed? And
Yes.
amazing?
but
Oh,
no. But look, like the only things that have been able to really survive these things are the organizations that have bubbles, and bubbles require money. You know that one thing that the FGCA never had, like forever. So if you expect players to actually start traveling to events, even if it's just top players, what what organization is going to run an event that's going to set aside the money for a bubble for video game players?
But that's in the U.S. That's the thing.
Yeah. No, but I mean that's what we're focusing on is the US.
Sure.
Like
Sure,
you
but
know,
my guess is you're going to see those top players leave.
yeah, I mean,
to
yeah,
go to-
I mean it's
to go to
entirely
Earth
possible.
event.
Yeah, that's entirely possible. But we
I'm
have
pulling up
to
how expensive a trip to Japan is.
but we also have to look at the potential of
I mean,
those organizations even doing bubbles there too. Like we I mean, do you think Bandai Namco is going to fork the money for a bubble?
No, but I think Japan right now has something like single digits of cases per day.
Yeah. No, but
Yeah, so.
I mean, yeah, Japan, yes, but I mean, our players going over there and them like even with low cases, something like that, they're probably going to want to push for a bubble, just given the fact that you're bringing Americans over here, so
Exactly.
But you have to quarantine for 2 weeks first.
Right,
That's the thing.
right.
Which is why I think that might be an easier thing. Meanwhile, 3-week trip to Japan right now is $3,000. Just saying.
$3,000.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's about what that's actually about what I paid when I went in like 2007 for like a month.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
That's not bad. You
I
know
mean,
what
it's not.
Yeah.
That's 8 years of inflation and still the
Yeah.
same.
That's on the border of like professionally accessible.
But
and
I think
here's the thing,
Japan.
that's
I
about what I
wanted
paid for the
to go
total
and verify this
flight
before I
and
stated
everything
this.
included.
Japan has a ban, so the U.S. is not able to.
Yeah,
go
that's what I was
into-
gonna. That's what I was gonna say. The travel ban isn't lifted until like late next
Yeah.
year anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
So they ain't letting
I
nobody.
was looking in like April. So
Oh, I mean, they've already said that it ain't gonna be till like sometime later in 2021 before they even start letting people into the country.
yeah,
So
and I was just skimming over their list. It is very extensive. Japan does not want anyone going in.
nope. So that's why I was saying like that.
Yeah.
Still kind of goes back into what I was saying about 2022. Like I don't see it before 2022 for in
the
person.
general case probably.
Yeah, for in person major events.
Welcome to
Yeah, I
2020,
guess that's-
folks. It's bad
I know,
here.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like Sean Connery, bro. Like seriously, man.
Yeah. I mean,
Oh,
granted, he was 90, so I mean, he had a good run. He had a good
he
run,
lived a full
He
life.
did.
He lived a full life.
but it is kind of very 2020 for that to just kind of happen. You know, couldn't even get out the
man.
year yet. Like I could see 2021 be like, okay, well, you know, all this happened, so here's 2021, but and we couldn't even get out of 2020,
Nah,
losing the
right.
icon.
yep. And now we've completely downered the ending. Good job. Go team.
Exactly. Daggone it, David.
My
Oh, wait.
expectations were low, so it's
You
okay.
are welcome.
Real quick, just a quick surprise thing. How do y'all feel about the lack of communication we've been getting with like Sony and Microsoft on these freaking next gen consoles? Oh my god,
Completely to be
it's
expected.
No,
it's
yeah. No, I
something I've
expected.
ever expected though.
This is a busted launch. Their games are screwed up because COVID has backed up half of the universe. Like
Mhm.
they're just gonna try to get these things out there because the thing is they're already built, right? Like they can either rot in a warehouse or they can get some of them sold, right? Like the narrative isn't going to be oh, this sucks, right? Like it's gonna be, hey, they did pretty well considering 2020, and then 2021 comes around, their games show up, the second bit of Final Fantasy VII remake shows up in 2022 or something, and everyone goes and buys one.
Mhm.
I think that's probably the likely case. I have to buy them because I run tournaments. Fuck my life.
Yay!
Imagine all the PS5s you're gonna have to start buying too.
I'm only gonna buy 2, and then players can shift for themselves. Bring your own.
Yep.
We'll go back to the old days.
I'm saying my whole thing is
With
like
that venue discount.
Right?
this is the one time I don't mind getting a next gen console early, because in my eyes, at least the PS4, it looks like the PS1 at this point. The PS5 does everything it does and better, and it's backwards compatible with it. What's the point in having a PS4 at this point?
Well, I mean, maybe you like living in a wind tunnel.
What's the point? The point is, I don't want to spend $500.
That too.
Fair.
That part too.
I mean, yeah, there is that part. I mean, you could always put your PS4 towards the PS5, but
The PS. Here's the thing about the
Have you
PS5.
seen those GameStop videos where they put up where people try to get like their system sold for 15 cents?
Yeah. It's like I want to trade in my PS4. Here's $15.
This is actually what I'm a little worried about as far as the PS5. The controller isn't great.
Oh, have you tried one yet?
Yeah,
Hmm.
the D-pad
Well-
feels not great.
Well,
And as a
here's the
Tekken
funny
player,
thing about
this matters to me.
True.
well,
Um,
good thing I
so
play on stick and
PS4
hitbox.
games that you play on PS5, you can use a PS4 controller.
Yes, you can.
You can for PS4 games.
Yes. So, I mean, it's not that bad, but
Yet.
yeah, the key word. I'm waiting for that system update where they just lock out the PS4 controller.
Yeah, like the D-pad feels a little not a big fan. A couple of players are like playing with them now because they work on PCs, and the PS5 controllers came out before the console.
Yeah.
And yeah. So that
Well-
might, great. Now I have to go learn to play on a stick.
Or hitbox. You can do either one.
Those
Please.
are so defeated.
Hit buttons while you hit
Answer the
buttons.
question, right?
Exactly.
To answer the question, do we think that they did a good job rolling it out? Are we talking from holistic aspect, or are we talking along the aspect of through our FGC eyes?
No, not for FGC purposes. Like for
Just
actually,
holistic.
yeah.
I mean, if it was from the FGC purposes, it's awful.
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
what were they gonna do?
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, and I've got a couple friends that like are insider knowledge as far as like GameStop is concerned, and like some stores literally only got like maybe 8 consoles, 12 tops for like pre-order, and the Xbox Series X and S, they only got 4, and it's like there's a reason things sold out so quickly because they didn't have a lot to give in the first place. And that's what I'm talking about. And then there's literally no communication. Like they have no clue what's going on. And like they're waiting on information just like we are. And then you get these sites that just randomly have
Oh,
things.
look, Josh came back.
He's been back for a little bit.
Online. Yeah, he has been
Oh,
back.
no, his sister came
Josh
back.
is always
Wow.
here in spirit.
It's like Ant Online, when like that was, I never heard of Ant Online before, and all of a sudden they got like PS5s.
Ant Online's
then-
actually like legit.
Yeah, I found out. It's just like I never heard of them, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, we got PS5s. Well, that would have been nice to know ahead of time. And then it was what was it? GameFly. GameFly got PS5 bundles, and they sold out within like a half an hour to an hour of like people getting the email for it, and it's just like, wow, that's special. There was no warning. It was just an email sent out like, hey, you can get this PS5 bundle, and we'll toss in like 9 free months of GameFly
Yeah.
as well.
Well,
Downside, you
to
have
take
9
into-
free months of gameplay.
You have to take into account that the same thing happened with the release of the PS4 and the Xbox One. Same thing with the PS3 and the Xbox. Like when those systems were released, it was just a complete crapshoot where companies were only releasing a certain amount because they wanted to build up that demand from just the generalized population. That's their way of being able to get a few out, see if they get any type of feedback outside of like their product testing that they do internally, and then make upgrades and then sell a newer version for a little bit more that's supposed to do what the first version was supposed to do right.
Other way around.
Like not catch on fire.
They
Anyway,
usually sell them at the same price, but they make them cheaper.
No.
For the most part, it's a die shrink and stuff like that.
Yeah. They'll upgrade the system storage. They might add like
Yeah,
a few.
they'll add stuff. That's true.
they'll put a fan in there. Yeah.
I mean, $100.
The one thing that I have heard consistently, and I didn't get to play with the PS5 for too long when I got a look at it at a time that shall not be mentioned. Those things are incredibly well ventilated.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them. Like the Xbox Tower is just like, it's kind of like that garbage can Mac a few years ago, where the fan, like the vertical nature of it is used to sort of just like push air straight through the whole case. So hopefully they don't blow up anymore.
Yeah, hopefully this will be the first Microsoft console that doesn't do that in some way, shape, or form.
I just
My
don't want
PS4
Resident
Pro is very loud.
Yeah, my PS4 is extremely loud, but at least it didn't blow up on me.
The one thing that I'm very curious about, actually, as far as the PS5 goes, is, and because I don't know if you guys know this, but I play Tekken, and Tekken is nothing but a frigging load time.
Dude, on PS4, oh my god.
But the thing is, it's the same way on PC if you're playing against someone who has a garbage hard drive that they're like pulling games off of.
Facts.
Yep.
And like if I'm playing against a friend of mine who I know has like an NVMe drive, it's just like load times are nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm wondering if we might see some standardization, not even standardization, because like there's still going to be PS4s. But like I wonder if we're going to see, hey, we all have PS5s. Let's play each other and not hate ourselves. Coming out for games like Tekken and to a lesser extent, I guess, Street Fighter.
I think if the games get optimized for the hardware, maybe. But
I mean the games don't have to be optimized for it. They're Unreal Engine games.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
They're Unreal Engine games. You already see a pretty significant benefit on a PS4 if you have an SSD in it.
Sure.
So like, because they're just reading shit off the disk.
Yeah.
I don't know about like those anime games. They might, I don't know, but the people in the top 3 row of my screen might be very happy.
I mean, I'm still gonna play on PC anyway, so it don't matter.
Oh yeah, no. At some point we can have the crossplay discussion.
Right.
I will try not to swear.
Any other topics before we wrap this up?
So kind of in the vein there of the, we talked for a good bit about when it would be responsible to do an offline major. Would y'all argue that they're necessary still?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, like, I mean, I guess that's probably not a good way to put that. Before the pandemic, we had hit a point where it felt like there was almost like a major every 2 weeks, or especially during tour season, like Tekken World Tour, every week there was a major. Do we need to have? I guess for me, my question here is: do we need to continue to this model where we've had standalone events, or would it be better for? I mean, I personally love the idea of these online leagues, especially with improved netcode, and then maybe having some type of like offline event as a championship out or something. I think that would be a really good way to go. We can kind of start developing these multi-league champions, multi-organization champions like you see in boxing.
Qualifiers that lead up into a championship based off of invitational purposes. You get top 2, top 3. You get invited to it.
I haven't heard of anything like that.
I actually, when I was talking to the venue that we were talking about in our previous discussion, previous topic for here, that's one of the things that they brought up. And I told them, it's a good idea, but it's too soon to do that. I will hold off. This also segues back into a previous discussion that Josh, John, David, and I have had in the past in terms of oversaturation of majors. Because before COVID, there was a complete oversaturation. There was literally 2 majors every single weekend. Did not matter where they were located, there was always 2 majors. In the US, there was always a major every single weekend, no matter what. Like, no one had any rest time.
What's your definition of major in that case?
No. So my definition of a major is a is a tournament that can bring in somewhere between 400 to 1,000 people.
Okay. That's insane to me. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And the only
Ow.
reason why I say that is because I've seen regionals hit 200, 300 people.
Yeah.
But
They
they
were-
also don't have corporate sponsoring from like other gaming companies. Like
That was the crazy
Arcus.
part that we noticed, like at the start of TWT, was like just the huge influx of people just signing up without any real
For locals.
Yeah, for locals, you were getting like close to 100 people,
Mm.
and that was like unprecedented
And that's
for
because they
fighting
allow
games.
locals to utilize their system. So it forced people to try to grab as many points as possible, which was great for locals. And honestly, it should start with locals, but that meant that there was literally multiple locals like every week
Yep.
instead of having established ones.
True.
Like next level, you have Xanadu in Maryland. You have Broad Street battles like every month, stuff like that. Those could be considered local, like monthly tournaments or weekly tournaments. But then,
Did we lose him?
Then
Yeah, we might have lost.
you saw
Oh,
locals
there he
just
is.
pop up out of nowhere, and then people were just holding tournaments in their basement.
To
They're
try to get points, yeah, to farm up points.
Just
Yeah.
trying to get points. When you allow that accessibility, there becomes such saturation that it dilutes the purpose of it.
Yeah.
It's been really interesting because like I didn't really pay that much attention to fighting games outside of my like local area until COVID hit, because I started doing internet things, and then internet things turn into more internet things, and then I meet Josh, and then my life is never the same. But like
Josh.
it's always Josh. But the interesting thing for Tekken at least is like there's not that there is a lot of attention going to relatively few events now, and I think that, you know, I'm biased, one of them's mine, but like that's really good for like for organizations like Chitech, right? Like that's getting, you know, having Shadow and Joey show up every week is in many ways really good. Some ways, but like I love having them come by because they're really really good players. You don't see that at like your locals on a weekly basis, whereas that's sort of the vibe that both Chitech and my stuff are doing. Where and then like right next to it you have stuff like the Bud Light stuff, and you have stuff like WSOE, and those things are, you know, there's so much less going on. And it's interesting that you say that there was such an oversaturation, because now it seems like if you want Tekken, you can find it any night of the week, but you're not going to find too much Tekken, and that's
Or
kind of
quality Tekken too.
True.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there, Ed. Because of COVID, it seems like a lot of people try to do online tournaments, and I did online tournaments myself for a while. But the quality of tournaments drastically changed, where you weren't getting so many, you were getting higher quality ones because they were the ones that were sticking with it. They were the ones that were still able to pull decent players that didn't have to leave their house in order to actually compete. They were able to just be comfortable and have fun.
It was really weird. Good.
Let's add this to it as well. Right? Let's consider the fact, like, I teach currently, and we have these old teachers, these legacy teachers, like legacy TOs, that have all their stuff on paper and all
Tenured?
their stuff on. Shut up, Josh. Tenured teachers.
Like, all right, hold the paper up to the Zoom.
Right, exactly. Don't use Google Drive, Grandma. You hold the paper up to the camera. Are you serious? Please sit down. But now you're seeing the TOs that, you know what I mean, that used to outsource their streaming, having to learn to stream. And I think that's a part of the issue as well, right? Those teachers, like what I deal with, you have teachers that are just not coming back. They're retiring early because they can't deal with the online platform. Like you have some of these tenured TOs that are like, bro, I'm not a streamer. And I don't want to organize that. I don't want to deal with that and, you know, do online and track these people and get in Discord. Like, I don't even know. I don't want to make any shots. I don't want to call it. Has Larry even been in a Discord ever?
We have a final round Discord.
Yes, we do. He has been on.
So he's
It-
been in one
But does that
Discord.
It took a lot. It took a lot to pull him into it, but we eventually got him in there. But yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Like how do you? We have to deal with the fact now that the online arena we're dealing with people that don't know how to handle change. And
That's a
how to
really
do
good
it
point.
properly.
Because,
And-
like,
and
You know what I mean?
I
Here's
like
the other
looking at
thing-
TriTech.
Go ahead. My bad.
Sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I'm
Oh, no.
done. Go ahead.
Oh, I was literally just gonna say, like, it comes down to a fact that, like, it's more important now than ever to delegate responsibilities to people, especially with online tournaments. Because if you try to run it on your own, it's not like an offline tournament where, like, it's a little more manageable because you can see things. And I don't know, it's like I feel like online tournaments need delegation. Like, there's no way to do it by yourself, especially if you want to stream it, because you're not going to stream it and keep keep on everybody's butts and keep score and all of that and make calls without some kind of help. And I think a lot of TOs, it's like they're used to, oh man, everything's going to pot, let me jump in and do mega management mode. It's like, no, now you actually have to have people on your team you can trust. I'm not a streamer. Sure, okay, you're not a streamer, but you got a friend that can stream and can literally concentrate on streaming alone. That leaves you free to do other things that you need to do as far as your responsibility is concerned. And there's a lot of people, admittedly, that I've known that they don't like sharing responsibility sometimes. It's like they don't want somebody to screw up. So they're like, well, I can just do it myself. And it's like, you can't do it yourself now. Like, online's a lot of work, and it's more work than you realize.
So, hi, I'm one of those people who can't share responsibility, and I run 40 plus player brackets plus stream plus commentate by myself.
Well,
Um,
you are a rarity, and
yeah.
I applaud you for that.
But
don't know
the thing
many
is, like,
people that can't.
it's a question of management.
Shut your divergent ass up.
Fair. But, like, for real, like, it's not that hard. I promise it's not. The thing is, like, people are not approaching this with, like, a systemic mindset. People are just like, I'm just going to go stream a thing. Whereas, like, the question that I ask myself is, can I do this without adding to my workload? Is there a way for me to do it? Like, I am a computer programmer by trade, but, like, at the same time, the code that I have written for this is stuff that, like, would probably blind anyone who I've ever worked with, and they'd be like, "You did what? You wrote that garbage?" So, like, it's not like it's high quality stuff. It's very much duct tape, but, like, I don't add something to the system. I don't add something to my workload unless I can have a computer do it for me, because that is the secret superpower here, is that the delegation you're talking about doesn't have to be to other people who are going to make mistakes. And, like, that allows for a ton of scaling.
Ed.
Yeah.
It's the Lamborghini on the outside, Civic on the inside.
No. It's Civic on the outside, Lamborghini on the inside.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
Because
You're right.
what he did was, I didn't delegate. What I did was I created a bunch of robots and gave them the job to do.
This man he's literally Dr. Doom.
No,
We have all the tools are there, and it's all really easy. And it's all right. I promise it's right there.
Ed,
It's right there.
Ed, you're the guy that created the algorithm for 7 years that didn't go to his job. They didn't find out until like the 8th year. You're that guy,
Excuse
bro.
me. Excuse me.
Yourself
I have to show up because
Lamborghini.
otherwise my charming face is not on a camera. And
He's
really,
gotta-
that's why I'm here.
He's got to go in there every once in a while, you know.
Right.
But for real, like, this is more accessible than it's ever been.
Leave me alone.
This is more accessible than it's ever been. And, like, if you do not have the technical drops, you're right. The amount of delegation you have to do is not that huge, right? Like, so the one time we have actually, like, split out responsibilities was for a very large charity event. Spoiler alert, we have another one coming up this weekend. But, like, the thing that we learned is, like, if everything goes through the stream box now. So, like, the fact that nobody is there makes it really, really hard for people to, like, work together on stuff, right? Like, unless you have my setup, you can't have somebody else go keep score for games. You just can't. There's nowhere for them to do it. And like that's the thing that we have learned doing online tournaments, that like you kind of have to flow it all through one person as opposed to like being able to have multiple people do this stuff. It's really it's counterintuitive, but like it ends up sort of shaking out that way.
You know who it sounds like to me, Josh?
Uh-oh.
Kaya.
I could see that.
Destiny, though.
I could see that.
Kaya to me, bro. It sounds like a young Kaya to me.
No, that's a huge compliment. Trust me.
See, that's the other thing.
listen,
I don't
that-
know any of these people.
That means you can read my lighter sized writing.
Oh Lord.
Oh no.
So that was back before we had pools and we had the whole bracket, and we
Lord
had
have
a
mercy.
table. And I had to fit everyone's name onto that bracket. After that year, we were like, can we?
It's like we can't do this again. No more.
Wasn't
it like
Josh's handwriting?
wasn't it like
I don't
8
care.
pages, eight sheets of paper like taped together?
Yeah,
Something like that.
It was a literal. When you stood the table on its, end to end, it was like a 6 foot tall table. Because Doggy Sandwich has a picture of himself next to it, and it's just.
It's just sheets of paper, just all
And
taped
after that,
together.
You're just like,
Yeah,
can
we didn't-
Please, can we just?
Yeah,
keep
back
pushing
in
out,
the day,
please?
we just did brackets, so we didn't do pools. We just did straight brackets. So regardless of how many people showed up, you doing a bracket. Yeah, it was painful, very very painful, because you would run this in one day. Say, what my first final round was final round 10, and there was, I want to say, maybe like 60, between 60 and 75 people. So imagine doing that on just a straight bracket as opposed to having pools.
No.
So you can, yeah, exactly. You can imagine. This is back in the day when tournaments started at like 12 and ended at like 3 o'clock in the morning. So
So help me. So help me God, I will pull the knife out if you guys do not get off one of my.
Lord have
setups.
mercy, man. Like tracking people down for matches back then.
Hey boss, I gotta go pee. And then they would go to like somebody else's room and just play Tekken and pass
Bro.
out in the room, and it's just like,
And this was before instant messaging and internet. That was that. Yeah.
This was during the days of that 10 cents a text message.
Yeah.
So I don't remember
Y'all
if it
old.
was a summer jam
It's shut up.
or winter brawl, but like I had to do something relatively similar to that, like around the time Tekken was still in its like early stages, Tekken 7, and it was like they did a 40, I think it was like 48 man, it was a cap bracket. It was all on paper. I had to whittle it down to top 8, and
I love paper brackets.
and the issue I had with it
Only one,
was
Josh.
that somebody took the monitors that were supposed to be for that that tournament. So we had to scrape around to get 2 monitors for one setup because we only had 2, because that's how they brought the arcade board in and set it up that way. So it's like, so I had to find another 2 monitors, and Big E's like freaking out, like he's upset. He's like, what's going on? Where's my monitors? Blase. So I'm like, all right, I will go out to my friend's car and pull my monitor, but I need to find another monitor. So I had to go to the other hotel. So it was like a 10-minute walk to grab a monitor out of the room and then bring it all the way back. And I'm just like, and then I'm trying to find all these Tekken players because they're all off in a Tekken Tag 2 tournament that's running at the same time. So
Did he just mention the fact that he stole some shit on the call?
No.
Not at all. He didn't say
His
that.
monitor?
It was his.
What?
It was his.
No. Let's talk about the facts. Let's back up a little bit. 'cause
We did. He didn't say that.
he went to an.
He didn't say that.
You're right. All right,
He didn't say that.
You're right.
He didn't say
Yeah,
that.
no, I said I had to get my friend's monitor.
Yeah,
from the
his
other
friend's
room.
monitor from the other room, or the hotel room. Yeah. Woo, man, you trying to incriminate that man? You better cut that out.
You better cut this off before somebody gets in trouble.
Sheesh, I can't even. I'm gonna have to delete the VODs.
Hold the switch. Jump.
God, I can't even put this on YouTube now, man. Over here incriminating everybody.
Kick these fools out.
Like I thought mumble rappers were bad when they like described everything, all the crimes that they did in their raps. But sheesh,
Yeah, Lil Pump, anyone?
yeah.
We got kicked off a plane because my grandmother and I was doing Molly. Like bumped the airline. Like, wait, what?
Some people.
Right. You know what I mean? Let's think back. When you were doing paper brackets, you had monitors? Because I remember breaking my
CRTs. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't say it was that long ago. Like I said, it was.
No, he said T7.
It was
So
early
yeah,
Tekken 7.
yeah. So they had monitors.
When they were bringing it.
Yeah, no, it did not in our arcade days with 400-pound CRTs.
Oh, trust me, I used to help out with Smash tournaments. So yeah.
Hey, let me tell you something, man. You guys are all in the industry. I'm telling you, if y'all could find that dude that designed that TV so we could all group beat him down like a JoJo's beatdown, bro.
Look, the Trinitron was a miracle of engineering. As long as you didn't have to lift it.
I have 2 at my house right now. What are you talking about?
You can't even get rid of them. Nobody will take them.
What about my back, bro? What about my back, son? Let's talk about our backs. Let's talk about the fact that when we were young, it was cool and shit, but now you rolling into the 4th decade of on this planet. And you're like,
exactly. The thing weighs more than you do. It's awkward. You can't even pick it up. Most of the time, they're upstairs.
There is a solution to this. However, it has problems with stairs. If you go to Harbor Freight, you can buy a 500-pound lift table for like $80. That's more than a CRT is worth. Yeah, but you can also use it for other things like sliding down hills.
And also,
like sliding down hills.
or you could just use it for moving lazy tournament goers.
Come on. Fucking Murdoch players.
Josh.
Sorry, he's a Gigas man.
Not before Gigas. He was only a Gigas man because Duck was not there.
It's
you
funnier
guys,
that way.
This has been amazing, and I hate y'all collectively. This is not
No,
good.
you don't.
I don't think this energy needs to be put into the world more and more. Like younger versions of us, the coach version of us, the quiet version of us, the techie tournament TO person, the one with experience, the one with not. All of us being in the same area together, this is how black holes form. You understand that, right? Like people get sucked into.
But black holes are beautiful.
Yeah.
They have the ability to crush anything.
So in other words, you're saying collectively we have the power of Shazam just to throw a punch and create a black hole by doing so.
Wow.
We need to test this because I have ideas.
I'd hate to keep y'all, but I've got a question here for you, and so I think this is something here that because
this will be our closeout. This will be our closeout.
Yeah, this will be our closeout question. You ready? You ready? So as TOs, we all understand the difficulty of it's hard to get a season 2 of a tournament, if you get what I mean. It's hard enough to get through the first season because especially once results kind of start to shake out, you start seeing the same people winning, you start seeing the same people come through. It almost makes it difficult to continue to build on from that. I mean, is there a way around that? Do you start classifying as like a pro-am type thing, like pros, amateurs, either or? Do you kind of ask particular players just to not participate? Like, how do you find that bridge between allowing people to be motivated and allowing newer players to be able to shine without having to constantly have to be put in that position of how do I fill in this older player's shoes?
Can I start on this one? Can I start on this one?
Sure.
All right. First of all, what I've noticed in this, and because I personally find this annoying, we need to stop treating the FGC like we give participation trophies. Like, what the fuck is like?
The suspense is killing me.
I know, right?
It really
The
is.
participation trophy got him.
Karma. Yeah, it caught up with him.
Well, the man that was coming after Josh got David.
Yeah.
We're
Right.
next.
Well, he's not. Well, the internet is abandoning him. I'm in the
Oh,
process
no.
of doing exactly this, right? Like, and I have been asking Josh for assistance, and my solution is blatant arbitrary selection. We've been doing these 8-player regional events where we interview the players. We put a face to the name because like that's really hard during COVID, and then
You're giving
like
him a player reel?
yeah, I am.
You mean just like how everyone says commentators have to have a commentary reel? They
I am.
Nope.
I'm just.
actually have a player reel?
No, it's not even reels. It's just like we do an interview them. We cut out some fun questions. I ask them some mildly incriminating things, and then we show those in the week leading up. We show them at the event. We use them as ways to like get the audience to know them, and we just pick players, right? Like there are people that live in New York that are too good and would win, and it wouldn't be exciting and it wouldn't be interesting, so we put them on commentary. Hi, Joey.
And this is just a suggestion as well, because it's been more recent. But I'm trying to think of the name that they've been calling it, like the Saturday Night Slam, whatever, right? With that
Saturday
kid,
Night Slam Masters?
Yeah,
Great.
that's
Is that what it
a
is?
awesome game, by the way.
It's very
no,
beautiful.
with that kid, No Need to Talk, and how like they were like doing exhibitions and stuff. Like maybe take some of the newer up and coming players and have them actually exhibition with these players that you might be afraid are too good, and make that a part of it. So that way, if people want to go after said players, they have the opportunity to do so in a set. And if it looks like, hey, these guys are actually starting to give this guy, like, somebody might be able to beat him in like a regular tournament set, then let them in. Like, just start testing the new talent versus the old talent with exhibition matches on top of the tournament.
And that's what people have been doing.
Before. Yeah,
Like
but I feel like this should
Incognito
be
in
a
New York.
regular
Yeah,
is doing
Incogs with the Danger Room. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that's
Iron
great.
Fist Philly does do that too. Like
If
Mac
No Need
Panther
to Talk
mentioned.
was on a run, like he was beating people like Dr. Africans and a whole bunch of other people, and then I think he reached a little too hard because he challenged Idom, and Idom watched that man like 10-3 for like a $1,600 money match. But like he
Ooh,
had to
sick.
take
Wait, what?
Yeah.
How much?
Why are people betting red?
Why are people betting money on
It's
entertainment?
COVID. It's
Yo,
COVID.
Why are people?
No,
It's
no.
Corona though.
Why
Oh,
are
here's
people
the
betting
thing.
red electricity and water? Like,
Here's
why are
the
y'all
thing,
doing
like
that?
people were actually like fronting the money for it.
Oh,
Like,
Maturino.
yeah,
okay.
actually, I don't
Again,
know if it was a Maturino. Like people, like, so you
again,
had, like,
I'm still
you had, like,
wondering.
Ernesto raised like $500 for the whole thing, and then it was like other people that put more money into it afterwards. So it's like, I don't know. Like, it's
so is
legend of people
crowdfunded,
that
I
wanted to
guess.
see this.
But
So
still,
it's community
man.
funded.
Yeah, it was
I
definitely community
just
funded.
don't think we need to be kickstarting grudge matches.
Nah.
No, all right. So can you guys hear me now? Can I?
Yes.
can I
Yeah,
go
yeah.
We
back?
hear you better. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Hey, welcome
So-
back.
Thank you very much. Soapbox. Here's the thing, right? It's like we as TOs have to evolve again. So not only, and we've all just said the same thing. Now we have to become event organizers on a different level where we're actually doing programming, right? We're creating hype around events now, and we used to do that before, but now we're doing it again a little bit more cleanly rather than messing with the bracket, putting people where they shouldn't be. Not saying that paper brackets allow you to do that because you don't have that much.
I seen it. I've seen it.
You know what I mean? So, and then too, we have to and I like to shout out people that have pushed these points. Aziza says we got to get the community into a mindset of being a community and marketing these events more. You know what I mean? That will then grow the player base. Because you're gonna always have a Justin Wong. But back then, there were people that were gunning for Justin. They were gunning for him. They were going after him with the intent of winning. And although they
Would you say they were going over turnstiles after him?
As your lawyer, I would abandon this line of questioning.
This is actually a funny topic that you guys brought up, and I'm glad you did. Because before COVID, when I was helping out with locals in Virginia, there was this one segment for the event that we did where we brought in like a pro player. Like I brought in like Mr. Whoopi or Victim of Ritual or Seiko for Tekken. And I would have a bracket of a bunch of up-and-comers go and compete against each other in the bracket. And the winner of that got to play against this person for like a side pot.
Right.
Kind of like the final boss thing that they did.
It's the final boss thing, but stuff like that needs to happen again.
Oh yeah, no, I agree.
I think it has been, at least online.
Yeah, on yours, but not universally in the U.S.
I meant like online in general, like the Bud Light stuff is sort of its own thing, but like most of the Bandai Namco stuff has some flavor of.
I've seen that, and they introduced that for this season, which is great. They should have been doing it sooner because it's more directed from the lower intermediate players trying to compete and contest with the pro players.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But that's the thing, right? We ran into we run into a lot of this as TOs, I think, is that there's this lack of like the will to win and keep on winning, or the lack of losing. Like, yo, you're not gonna like who goes into a dojo going, hey man, I've lost to my sensei for the last 2 years. I quit. No, you're leveling up. Respect the fact that you may take a round or you may beat this character, or like, how do we explain to them and put that knowledge and basis into them that, yeah, although this is a regular person, Josh is a regular man, Justin Wong's a regular man. Justin Wong took his L's too. He didn't just become the Marvel god out of nowhere.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's facts.
Like people need to realize like we need to. I don't know if that education needs to be, cemented into the community. Like, what are you doing with your time?
It was lost.
Well, I mean, I've mentioned this, like I mentioned this several times, like especially like when I do my little like series. But the whole point of the matter is like people need to understand that like everybody starts somewhere. Like if you don't like if you think that people literally just start off being godlike, like you're crazy. Like everybody has to grind. Justin Wong mentioned his own personal grind. You get people like Mewtwo King. That man, it took him a couple years before he started to dominate. Like people would be like, "Oh man, like he dominated Ken." His record versus Ken is like 5-15 or something like that. Like he did not beat Ken that much. Like, and but it's like people don't understand that like these players that were dominant, they just got bodied left and right.
Right. You know what it is? All right. So answer this for me. Is it that we're in a society of people that see the tip of the iceberg and don't know that shit goes down for 2 to 3 miles?
Yes.
It has
to be. Yeah, that's what it is.
That's exactly what it is.
Y'all are old. I'm sorry, but like y'all are playing games that like are not recorded, right? Like I don't know any of these things. Like I don't know how many games. Just as more of a proximate example, I don't know how many games Joey Fury's played. I assume there are thousands of them, but I haven't seen them. And like only the good ones are on YouTube. And so like you couple that with the frankly really shitty and toxic way that people treat each other in this community when they lose, like that's super bad for encouraging people to keep playing.
Facts.
Like that discourages people, and that's one of the reasons that like when we're running these events, one of the like underlined rules in our commentator stuff is we build people up. We don't there are often very valid reasons to criticize people in ways that are could be like negative, and we try to avoid that because like we don't need players getting blown up for that stuff because that makes them quit. And yeah, there's some level of that might be soft and stuff like that, but also people have way more options. People can go do all these other things. They don't have to play fighting games, but we want them to play.
That's not soft. It's not soft. It's called basic social skills.
I mean,
I'm just letting people know. People who think it's otherwise, it's called basic social skills. There's a reason why you have a niche crowd if you don't understand that.
What is that,
Because they're
Josh?
the only people who put up with each other.
What are social
Just
skills?
in general.
Yeah. I think
That's
the
still
league
things that
thing
I'm
is
still trying to develop.
because like if you look at like most other video games being played competitively because we're all scared of the word that begins with E and ends in sport, like they all have leagues, right? Like if you look at Call of Duty, teams are playing in like leagues, and I think most of them have like relegation and stuff. In fighting games, it's just like, oh hey, I went on ranked and got my teeth kicked in by Anakin.
Yeah.
Which happens a lot.
Yeah.
It's very unpleasant.
So
And like I don't know what you do because you're not getting anything. Like what you're getting out of it is so much more marginal than like the time and effort put in. Because then you know like I don't care that he's streaming and kicking my ass, but like somebody who actually cares about being good, probably like that's a discouraging factor.
But it also depends on the player, because I mean a lot of us, guys in here, we've played games so long that we know that taking the L is not necessarily that you're a bad player. It's a means of leveling up. But a lot of new players that come in, they see the top players, and like you said, they see the tip of the iceberg. They don't realize everything else that was built up to get to that point. So they get discouraged by losing. But I've said this for years, and Josh knows this. I'm sure Andrew knows this too. Is you can't get worse. It is literally impossible to get worse. I see the look on your face, but to be fair, you may
from the stance of if you're not committed to being bad.
Well, yeah. But
I don't know. I lose more to Justin now than I ever did.
But to be fair, that's
because Justin is different. Justin gets you to think the way he wants. He's bad. He gets you the way he wants you to think, so he can continue to crush you.
Mm-hmm.
That's why whatever he tells you, what makes him more mad? Doing the opposite of what he wants you to do,
or him telling you, "Hey, you should be doing this," and then you go and do that, and then he beats you, and it's like, aha! No, he's hitting you with that reverse psychology. But that goes into like players that have been around that are like, oh well, he's not playing Tekken, he's just a masher, he's a scrub, blah 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 blah. It's like the game, there's not a concrete set of rules of how the game is supposed to be played. So a lot of times when you body somebody like using something they don't expect, it's like, oh, that's not Tekken. It's like, no, that's Tekken, but it's Tekken now.
Thing that I always tell people. I'm like, I said, there's a, not to like pit an old school versus new school mentality, but there was a mentality growing up, especially in the arcades. Like when you played somebody that beat you, it was just a different play style. Sure, it may have seemed random at some point, but it's like, yo, I got to figure out how to beat this guy's play style. And I even remember Lord Knight telling me when he was in the arcades in Japan, and he was having a hard time beating somebody in Persona, and it was like they were like, "Why are you losing to this guy? Like, it must be the way that his play style conflicts with you." And once he understood how the play style worked, he didn't lose to that person anymore. Yep. And it's like nowadays people don't look at it as, "Oh, this guy just has a really weird play style." They look at it as, "Oh, this dude's random."
No, this random. Oh, the character's OP, needs to be nerfed.
Yeah, and it's like
they don't
looking at it.
I mean, granted, Leroy didn't need nerfs, but I'm just saying,
Yeah, well,
they don't look at the stylistic matchups. It's like going in to fight a kickboxer and not training to understand, like, all right, I got to be able to check leg kicks, and then within the first 30 seconds of the fight, you get tagged by 7 leg kicks, Paulo, and then all of a sudden you get kicked in the head, Paulo. Just like it's. If you don't train for that, like if you come in there like they have to fight this way, this is the way they have to fight. That's the smart way.
It's like this is Lars. He will only do
Buster Douglas.
Yeah. We used to call those people. We used to call them those folks cookie cutter forum characters. Mm-hmm. Meaning, I would play someone. I'd be like, you are going to play like someone that read the frequently asked questions, and you are going to be doing everything by the book. I'm going to drag you because you're going to be so mad. Because you're like, why would you do that? Because I know what you're going to do. I literally know what you're going to do.
Dude, it's X copy.
Yeah, that man went into that fight without prepping, and he lost.
It's X copy flowchart. Like Like there are times when I've played against people and like just the way they play, I'm like, dude, it's like playing against a computer. You do the exact same thing in the exact same situation every single time.
Oh god.
And
Soul
like,
Calibur 4 was
Arcade
bad.
mode is wonderful.
Yeah.
Treasure battle is wonderful. You start to figure out something has a pattern. Everything has patterns, y'all.
Mhm.
The one thing that comes to mind though that is maybe because of like doing these tournaments and being kind of the only game in town, I talk to a lot of people now. And like we have players from very, very varying skill levels, right? Like we've got five players in the US and we also have, well, not bottom five, but close.
they
Bless
they
their hearts. They
they-
mean well.
They do, but
they
and, like it is very
they add to the bracket. They add to the bracket.
Yeah, it is non-ironically like brackets live and die off of those players. But like the thing that I've noticed is like bad players know that they're not very good. And a lot of them show rapid improvement which is that sort of encouragement. Like even if you get kicked out of the ring, we have players who now, put up credible fights and win games that they probably shouldn't, but they luck into one once in a while.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I've noticed is you get into that sort of mid tier. You get up to the point where like you think you might be good, or at least think you might have a chance of being good, and that's where all of this toxicity chases players. Like that's where good players go to die.
When they hit
Is
that
because-
plateau.
Not just the plateau, but like it gets into their head, and everyone around them is an asshole, and like that's
Yeah.
really seems to be where a lot of like there are players who are mechanically and like skill wise able to make that jump that just aren't because they're burning out. And like I'm not going to name names, but like y'all know, right?
Yeah,
like there's tons of players who are just running back the exact same thing because they can't get out of their own head, and when they try, like the crab bucket pulls them down.
Exactly.
And that I don't know how you deal with. But like that's something that stuck out at me the last year or so.
I think
To be
that's
honest, you know how you deal with that.
So that-
You kind of run against the wall until you get through it.
yeah. I mean,
but again, everyone has other choices for things to be doing.
I think it becomes more of a mental thing. Like some people are able to get over that mental hurdle, and then you just have some people that like you said, they just get into their own head so badly that it's like, whoa. And it sucks because even when they make like small improvements and they actually start doing better, then they take that one loss that they don't think that they deserved, and
And they go to
it's
pieces.
right back to it's right back to square one again.
Yeah.
And I mean, the bad part is like I said, they don't get worse. It's just that one situation that it's like, oh, I should have won that because I did XYZ and he did QRS, and it's like, and I mean, it makes them regress, and they start to think, oh, well, I'm not a good player,
I must be bad.
Yeah, it's like I must be bad because I lost this one matchup, despite the fact that it's like, dude, you went like 5-2. Like, oh no, I suck.
I should stop playing my main.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
like,
like no, you did. Like, remember back when you used to go 0-2? It's like, I don't know.
To me, that's the mental maturity divide.
Right.
That's that chasm for the mental for mental maturity in terms of players where I keep running into this, and those are the folks that they run a different characters. They keep trying every solution in the book. I mean, outside of just changing the stage, or just dealing with the matchup, they don't understand how to take their lumps through that. They forgot. Those are folks who you see who might have experienced success very quickly for whatever reason early on, but it's just, I mean, it is what it is. Like,
Oh my god.
that's their demon to exercise at that point.
So let me ask you guys a bunch of TOs. Do we have a responsibility in playing, educating the player base about what it takes to continue to be competitive, recognize your victories for what they really are, and remain?
I mean, we don't necessarily have a responsibility for it, and I mean, it's
be
one of
nice.
those. Yeah, I mean, I try to do that as much as I can to any of the players that I talk to or I see, but it's one of those things where they kind of have to do it themselves too, because regardless of what you say, they're still going to feel the same way, you know. And like I said, it can be just that one thing. Like, you know, they're good for a little bit. You know, they get the encouragement, like, yeah, I am doing better, and then boom, they hit a Anakin or they hit a Joey or something like that, and it's like they get
Why are you
that
calling me out?
where they get that close, and then it's like, oh, I suck. I'm a terrible player, but it's like you beat everybody else.
The
Like,
weird thing for me in my brackets is I would be a 1 and 2 player in any of my brackets. So like the fact that all of these players who are actually good are complaining to me, I'm just like, man, I got nothing.
yeah,
I could give you like internet bartender shit, but like that's it. Like these players are so much better than
Internet
me.
bartender. I like that a lot.
But
That's me.
you know what though? Like, here's the thing, and it kind of goes back to an earlier TO talk that was had, where we talked about like being a leader. And a lot of times, like, TOs, sure, they don't necessarily have a responsibility to be a leader, but like they'll listen to people who are.
oh yeah,
I do think there is a responsibility to it for what that's worth. And like
Yeah.
it's just weird being that person because I'm the worst Tekken player that I talk to. Which makes it very strange in this environment that is very like wannabe meritocratic.
but
It's it
to be fair, you're the you feel like you're the worst player, but look at the other players that you play against. Like, you play against Doc Massacre, you play against Offenbed, you play
I'm
against
well aware.
Still Electric. Like,
I'm well aware, but my
the-
brain is full of fucking
the company you keep.
No, totally.
It's like, oh, I'm the worst of these top players. Man, I really suck. It's like, and then you go and bust a local, and it's like, oh,
I'm just waiting for Josh to get his computer together so he can keep beating me too.
I'm waiting for him to
set me up.
yeah.
Let's see. This is the weekend. This is the weekend.
Good.
This is the weekend,
It's about
gentlemen.
daggone time.
This is the weekend.
I'm
I
gonna tell you
don't
what, like, when I
know
was-
where it's going to be yet, but this is the weekend. At the very least, I confirm that it's up and running, and that I'm able.
Excellent.
I'll tell you what, when I was like raising my scene, I can't even just say running tournaments, and I was raising the scene, there were so many times I had to like assure people that they had gotten better. And it was just like look, like, you just gotta like not concentrate on trying to get better so quickly. Like, understand you're making progress, but like there are just certain people you're playing, people that show up that are from out of the area. They're just better at the moment. All you have to do is work towards it, aim for something, and like, you know, set that goal and work towards it, because that's you'll realize when you set smaller goals that you're getting better. And
It's
you know,
it's like that meme that you see the dude like stepping from the first step up to like the eighth step.
yeah,
That, I mean, that's really what it is. It's like, people want to get to the top of the stairs like on day one, and it's like, it ain't gonna happen. Like, trust me. Even
Yeah.
and
So
the
people
thing,
come in
especially
and I wanna
especially
walk
with
in.
Tekken,
And walk.
yeah, it's like, especially with Tekken, given the fact that the game only just changes very minutely between iterations, so the game doesn't really. It just, they add different systems, but the game fundamentally is the same. So, like I said, you know, the transferable skill is, this game is pretty much the same thing. I just got to figure out juggles, and after that, I'm good.
Yeah,
So, like, people just, they think they can come in day one and be an Anakin or be a Take or a Mr. Naps or whatever, and then they get discouraged because it's like, well, I watched Mr. Naps stream for like 10 hours, and I can't do taunt jet upper. Yeah, it's like, I can't. It's like, he does taunt jet upper in his sleep. Why can't I do it? It's like, because you ain't him and you haven't played for like 20 years.
yeah.
So-
Right? I mean, I get friends that are like, I mean, you've been teaching me for like weeks, and I still can't beat you. I'm like,
It's
I
like,
mean,
Okay.
you're not going to be able to beat me right away, but let me show you something. And then
Yeah.
I'll take them to the venue, and just random people will show up, and they'll be like, yo, let's play Marvel. Let's play Marvel. And I'm like, I'm good. Go ahead and play. And I'll let them sit down. And then all of a sudden, they just start bodying people,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not losing. And they're like, wait, what's going on? I was like, I told you, you got better.
Yeah.
You're just measuring yourself up against me, the guy that's teaching you, but
Yeah.
you're better than the average person right now.
Which is, and that's why I always say you can't get worse. Like you just can't unless you're dedicated to being bad. Like Josh said, you can't get worse. Like you're not gonna suddenly forget. You're not gonna suddenly forget how to punish somebody.
Work real hard at it.
Yeah, it's like you're not just gonna suddenly forget how to.
Born bad, or did you work really hard to be this way?
Yes.
And
it's
I had to learn that the hard way. Like I realized that no matter how much I stop playing, no matter how much like I stop putting effort in, I'm still going to beat people sometimes, whether I want to or not. And
I mean, you're going to be rusty. You're going to be rusty, and I mean everybody has ring rust, but it's like you're not going to just suddenly forget how to move. You're going to just forget how to backdash. You're going to forget how to launch somebody and take half their health, or you're going to forget how to do a wall combo. It's ingrained in your memory now. It's muscle memory. You're not just going to completely forget how to play a game. Like period.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen.
I remember, oh my god, it was like this dude, he used to come to my tournaments all the time, and then I hadn't thrown one in a while, and then he shows up at a different tournament and I get him in bracket, and I feel bad because every time I played him, I beat him. And I'm watching him play and I'm like, this kid has gotten so much better. Like he should be able to beat me now. And I 2-0'd him. And I felt really bad because I hadn't been playing this game at all. It was just melee. Like I hadn't been playing melee at all. And like no kind of practice or anything like that. And this dude just like I could tell he had put in work and he just got bodied. And I felt bad. I'm just like, ouch. But like you're right, like you said, like you don't get worse. Like if anything, the problem was it's like where I lacked in execution, I made up for in my neutral in my mind games. So it was a little too overwhelming for the kid, and I like
we call that the Justin Wong effect. I've seen Justin Wong play players that were completely better, outclassed him in everything, but just because they were sitting next to Justin, they lost.
No, I mean that's real though. Like a lot of times, what'll happen is they put that player up on such a high pedestal that it's like, oh, whatever I do, he's going to be able to block whatever setup he does. I'm going to fall for it, and they psych themselves out. Like the same thing happened to me against Anakin at DreamHack, and like he 2-0'd me. Granted, I got maybe like 2 rounds off of him. Or no. I take that back. It was 2-1. But like I even asked him after the match. I was like, what do you think that I could have improved on? He was like, dude, you didn't do lows at all. Like you used like no lows. Like if you would have used lows, you would have been fine. And I was like, that's because try telling people. Yeah, and it's like, dude, I was so afraid of getting parried or doing a heavy low and getting launched that I didn't think it would work. And the bad part is I tell people that all the time. I'm like, dude, that dude doesn't know your setup. He ain't never played you before.
I love Juan, Jimmy, and Spiro and Joey for that reason. Like all 4 of them know that, and that's one of the things that I think makes Marcus so good. Shadow, they just know that you have to challenge him. You have to be like, look, it's like any type of sport where like I got to go for the high risk play. I got to go for the football 3rd and short. I don't know what the basketball equivalent would be. It's almost like fighting against Khabib, where I know he's going to change levels and it's going to be the overhand right, or it's going to be the shot, and I'm going to go against the cage.
Yep.
But there's nothing you can do about it. And I hate to get ready to wrap this up, but you know what? I want to do this while I'm thinking about it. I want to keep honest on it. Speaking of Anakin, I got his blessing a while back. Not sure those of y'all who were around for Tekken Tag 2, if you ever heard of the IFL, the Iron Fist League.
Yep.
It was a lot of fun. It was a whole lot of fun.
Yes.
I've been
especially
the league for
especially the photoshops. The photoshops were the best part.
Yeah, the photoshops were the best. Cody, Torture Rack, and Speed.
Oh my gosh,
best dude!
No, what was the other one? What was it?
I've still got the one of I've still got the one with Speed Kicks and Run It Black and Shawshank Redemption.
what was the one with Riggs and what was it? Mike, Fly Mike, getting whooped by OFDP, I think, with Seiko in the background.
Oh,
And there was the little Geo head that would randomly appear.
Dude, oh my gosh, the photoshops were amazing.
The meme, yeah, they were insane. It made the best memes. Like, I got Anakin's blessing though to do a Tekken Force League, as I've called it. And so, thanks to John's generous hand me down here, that I'm going to make sure is up and running this weekend and as healthy as can be. And then I'm probably going to be asking you, Ed, for some advice on how to do some things. I think it's time. I think it's time. Instead of we just we're always doing this think tank thing. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do the Tekken Force League. So if any of y'all want to be involved, Ed, I know you're in a place with some very interesting capabilities that I'm definitely gonna want to look into a little bit. So I'm gonna definitely have to take a peek and maybe talk it up a little bit.
Sure.
But with the improved netcode, I think this is a great opportunity to get involved. And as we're talking about, I'm like, kind of, I want to approach this from a Linux mindset, from an open source. We mentioned earlier about how we're talking about players can go through different leagues. Why not just create the league and then hold on to player. We can create player records, hold on to player records, very similar to what Ed's doing, and have some type of stat keeping and things of that nature. And to be honest, doing that and having other entities do the same thing would be incredible, because it's one of two things are going to happen. Either A, we're going to have to step up to compete and get better, or B, they're going to be so much better that they take over the sphere, which would be, it is what it is. But I think I'm going to put this desktop to good use, John. I'm gonna follow through with this Tekken Force League. In fact, I'm going to go so far as to pay players.
I mean,
I'm gonna follow the combo breaker model. Where they give you $5 for running a bracket. I'll give you $5 to $10. For being a match. We'll even do some things like fight of the night, or like player's choice. I'm a big fan of custom of the night. I love that. I think it's fun. It provides something to.
That'd be dope.
We're bringing it back.
Yeah,
I mean, and it brings you to something where it appeals to something other than just the meritocracy of play. It's
right.
like
instead of just the gameplay. Right.
Being cool is fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Listen, if anyone that's watching this in the archives or anyone watching now that wants to tell people, Tekken Force League TFL. If you want in, hit me up. We can do something fun. In fact, I've got some connections in Pakistan that, depending on how this rollback netcode works out, we could probably get something very interesting going.
Slow your roll. I have high hopes, but that's pretty strong.
Yeah. We'll find out. We should find out next week, though.
At the very least,
Tuesday.
we could possibly set up some stuff from the EU to Middle East,
Europe, maybe.
South Asia, if you will.
It might be. We'll find out Tuesday.
I think that's Tuesday. Tuesday will be good. Thanks, Microsoft.
Mm-hmm. I know, right?
yeah.
I didn't see anything.
Microsoft,
I didn't see anything.
No,
I just having a pretty good idea.
I
But,
will just say
Alright,
that at a hub of events.
I'm gonna bow
You gonna bow? All right, David. We appreciate
out.
you.
I think that's all of us. I think you're being a good influence, David.
Yeah.
I know
I think it's
some of us got to eat. I've got my child knocking on my window.
yeah.
All right. Catch y'all later.
Father, please. I'm so hungry, Father.
All right. See you guys later.
All
right, Ed, thanks.
Yeah, fun. Good talk.
All
All right, guys. So I'm gonna go ahead and call it there. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll announce if we decide to do it again in the future. Obviously, we came up with some pretty good topics. I'm gonna upload this to YouTube probably later tonight. So I'll throw that up on my Twitter. And I guess that's it. Catch you guys later.